up, y'all? Kofi Kingston here, and I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks, depending on what that drink is, preferably non-alcoholic, you know?
How's it going? Celtic Warrior Shaman.
Soda.
And I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Maple syrup.
Fella.
I would never have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Welcome to another episode 1 of Wrestling on the Rocks. That's right, this is Wrestling on the Rocks, where every show is our first show because we just can't figure it out. We promise perfection, and we just can't ever hit that. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword, you know? You do your best, and you never win, and you always fail, and you just keep it rolling, you know what I mean? You just keep doing it. Guys, I'm at Ref Marsh. This is at WOTR, the show. Like I said, Wrestling on the Rocks. But today with us, as per usual, right after a pay-per-view, because we did the drink-along with him on Sunday. Guys, say hello to Bishop from Terrible Wrestling Takes.
You told them to say hello to me. Should I say hello to them?
Well, if you want, I guess.
Nah, man, glad to be back, as always. I do enjoy hanging out with you. We did the watch-along, and I'm here to talk about it, as you said. I guess I could have left that part out. Oh, man, what a day. Yes, Bishop from Terrible Wrestling Takes Podcast, twtakespodcast.com for all audio platforms, at TW Takes Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. twtakespodcast.com/TWTs, dope merch behind me. We had a promo code for the watch-along, just cause, 90% off, and nobody used it. So that promo code's gone. For our good friends at Wrestling on the Rocks, promo code DIVEBAR for 25% off at all times. Marsh, thank you for being such a supporter and having me on as much as possible whenever I can help out. Glad to be here. So as a thank you to you and your fans, as always, promo code DIVEBAR for the listeners here for 25% off all Terrible Wrestling merch.
Man, people should have jumped on that 90% off. I mean, really... You're spending like $4 on a shirt at that point. No, not even.
No, $1.50.
$1.50. It's like $1.50 a shirt, dude.
Yeah, and if you get the 5-pack, it was $6 for 5 T-shirts, and I pay for shipping. So
you're like, look, I'm gonna lose some money on this, but we're gonna fucking roll with it. And people are all like, keep your terrible wrestling merch. But if I didn't already have shirts, I had to fucking bought them. I already bought a whole set. I got the whole rainbow. So
very true.
Maybe I should have got some just to wash the car with.
I mean,
gifts.
I almost bought them, and they're mine. I mean,
yeah.
So why
we got
not?
Just in Time coming through the chat right now already. He says, "Bartender, I'll take my Terrible Wrestling Takes on the Rocks."
Oh,
straight
is
up.
there anyone better?
Yeah, and we like our Justin neat.
It's weird, man.
What? That means without rocks. Oh wait, that's not a good thing. It's a bad connotation in this one. I just kicked him out. I said I did last call on him early.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you back, man. And we didn't really talk about SmackDown when we were doing the drink along. We were just talking about Raw, what we were seeing, what was happening. We veered off topic a couple of times here and there, as we're prone to do. If anybody wants to come into the chat, twitch.tv/Wrestling on the Rocks is where you can also come in and derail the show, because that's what happens in our chatter. It derails the show almost every time. So if you want to be a part, that's how you can do it. We are going to talk about SmackDown. We're going to talk about Raw, of the fallout of Hell in a Cell. We are going to give a rundown over Hell in a Cell. I don't think we're going to need to break down extensively everything, just because as we were watching it, we were calling it like we see it. And to be honest, upon rewatch, I had very similar feelings. It wasn't like some stuff where on a second watch I go, you know what? This is different. This is better than I didn't give it a chance, because that's happened to us a number of times. We're watching live and we're like, I am not feeling this. And then on a second watch going, oh, you know what? This is much better than I gave it credit. I feel bad for saying that earlier. I'll be honest with you. Everything I thought live is basically what I thought on rewatch. So we're just going to talk about it a little bit, I think. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping. This show is brought to you by New Wave Coffee, newwave.co, NOOWAVE.co, for New Wave Coffee. Flow State Coffee is specialty grade coffee with L-theanine and raw cacao for productivity and creativity. Better energy, focus, and mood than a regular cup of coffee while decreasing the negative side effects like anxiety and blood pressure. And guys, if you use promo code CHEERS, you can get an additional 10% off their already ongoing sale. I don't know how long the sale is going to go for. It's been going on for a while, so I imagine it can't be going on for too much longer. But who knows, man? Maybe it's just what they do. It is ran and operated by an indie wrestler who was trained by Lance Storm, so also supports indie wrestling. And I think what also makes them such a great fit for us is we like to drink coffee, and we like wrestling, and he does too. So all things considered, it was a pretty nice little match. I mean, it didn't hurt any that I ordered the coffee first, drank it, said, I love this stuff. Let me reach out and see what the guy says, because I had met him once before and was like, hey, do you mind if I shout you out? And he goes, hey, let's do one better. So, guys, check out New Wave Coffee. Bishop, you already got some New Wave Coffee, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I had another cup yesterday too. After talking about it on the watch along, I had to definitely keep my trial by fire going with New Wave Coffee. I've yet to reach back out to them to let them know how it works. But yeah, I do a reusable Nespresso pod.
So good.
Whatever the 5.7 ounce is or 5.5 ounce thing, packet type. It comes out great. Actually, I got halfway through the cup yesterday, and I go black on my coffee. I don't put anything in it, so I can actually taste what it is. And I got halfway through it, and then that next sip after halfway, where you're usually like done with coffee, I was like, man, this shit's really good. So I am enjoying it more and more. This is about I think I've had 3 cups already by doing it individual like that, and
Yeah.
I'm liking it more and more.
I drink my coffee black too, which is why I really like it, because it's that cacao really comes through on that flavor profile there.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be watered down by sugar or milk or anything like that, and I don't like adding that stuff if I don't have to. It's sort of like how I've had a lot of people tell me like, oh, my favorite beer is Corona, but I have to have it with lime and salt. And I'm like, well, if you have to have it with lime and salt, you don't like the flavor of the beer. You've just changed it. This is one of those ones where it's all like, oh, I like this coffee black, and I prefer it black because it's already got really good flavoring in there, and I do think it has a really even keel energy to it. It doesn't feel as sporadic as caffeine typically does. So, but yeah, New Wave Coffee, guys, check it out. Let's see, coming through here. It looks like Justin Time gifted out another sub. Thank you, Justin. Cheers to you. Let's start also with a what's in your glass, Bishop. What are you drinking tonight?
I did a shot before we got on, just to settle the nerves, as always. And what goes better with a shot than a beer? So I'll have one beer with you tonight, brother. I know we're both on a time crunch, so as we usually do, we have a couple drinks. I'll go one with you, and then let's do the job.
Oh yeah, for sure, not a problem at all. I mean, that's a really nice way to balance it too. You kind of get that spike and then that kind of level out. It's a nice way to ride the wave. Let's see, Lunar coming through. Let's go coffee. Clap, 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 clap. 100%. Cheers to Lunar.
Cheers.
I actually have a little bit of a night ahead of me after we get off, which is why we gotta make sure we don't run 4 hours tonight. So I am actually having coffee, but I do have my coffee tonight with Terramana, the Rocks Tequila. Makes for a really nice additive to coffee and will help. It kind of reminds me of like Buzz Beer. You remember that from the Drew Carey show? You know?
Oh yes.
Something to get you drunk, but also keep you up later so you can drink more.
Yeah.
So. Awesome, man. Awesome. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to throw out there at all. I mean, we do like to always support Capicania if possible, so I suggest jumping on there and doing that. They put out a survey the other day to their engagement on Instagram and asked how many of their followers had tried it, and over 64% said not yet. And I was like, man, that's got to sting a little bit when over half of the people following you and engaging with you are not trying the product. It's like,
oh, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. So just shouting it out. I think it's definitely worth it. I mean, we've placed 2 orders at different times. We haven't ordered consistently because we go through it kind of slowly because producer seems to think of it as a special occasion wine. But we have so many bottles. I'm like, we need to have more special occasions, to be honest. So it's really good stuff. It's just worth it. And then for Pride Month, they're giving a portion of their proceeds to the Trevor Project. So now's the month to do it. Do it while you can. And speaking of Pride Month, the only bit of news I have is that just moments ago, before we went live, Toni Storm made I don't know if I'd say the announcement, but she did come out as bisexual on the NXT Instagram story. And then they tweeted it out, and just one of those, congratulations. Like, I don't know what to say to somebody when they come out other than great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know how I'm supposed to support you, but whatever it takes, great. I think it's
Yeah,
awesome. I'm glad
absolutely.
you feel better, you know?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, at this day, we both grew up in a time where, being gay was either taboo, a punchline, um, and
Yeah.
one way or the other, you were on one side or the other. You either, um, made fun of or you didn't say anything. And I've had my errors in the past, but I quote tweeted that actually, and I said one of the coolest things I've been a part of is having someone who I wasn't that close to. It happened a couple times, just like an acquaintance at work. If we're going out to a bar afterwards or whatever, they're like, "Hey, can you just like, being gay, I'm kind of uncomfortable right now. Can you watch my back for me, or do you mind, walking back to, because I was working a cruise ship at a time. Like, do you mind walking back from the bar with me? Yeah, it's fun. Like, being
Yeah.
an ally makes you realize like how cool just like regular partnership is. Just to be, you go from acquaintances to friends because all you do is just respect them.
Yeah.
So by
And
Tony
support.
Storm, like, yeah, her line was not only am I an ally, but like I'm part of the community. It's both because I am bi, and she actually phrased it in a way where like, oh, only you guys know now. Like I've always known, not where like if she was uncomfortable. So I thought it was so cool, and it just reminded me of those times where like I've been entrusted to know this when maybe most people didn't know it.
Yeah.
And that's always been something cool that I've kept special to myself,
Yeah. No, I think I agree. When I was, I mean, I can think of a friend that I worked with and we hung out a few times. I remember him pulling me aside one time and being like, "Hey, do you think I'm gay, or what do you think about this or whatnot?" And it ended up being more of a complex situation than that, as far as like the non-binary and the
Sure.
pansexual type stuff, where it was still new to me to learn about the complexities of all that. And I remember a lot of what I was saying in that conversation was like, dude, I didn't think of it a different way because it also never occurred to me that it was a problem any other way. It also didn't affect how I feel about you as a friend. Like whatever path you're on, I'm the same friend to you. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't want you to think that there's like any kind of news that changes that, especially in that regard. So yeah, I think being an ally is really important, and being supportive is really important. I don't whatever it takes to be that and do that. I say do it.
Cheers.
It's just not being an asshole. I think most of the time,
Yeah.
which for you and me can be a struggle at times.
Oh, for sure. Cheers to Splinter Fox.
Yep. Oh yeah. Splinter Fox is one of my favorite people who jump in here. I know he's not even here
fun.
yet, but I just love the idea that there's no way he agrees with most of what we say ever. And there's no way that he likes when we rag on his favorite stuff. And I try not to just straight up rag on stuff without cause or reason, or at least an explanation on something. But like the fact that he still comes back all the time just to hang, I mean, we got to be doing something right. We got to be at least showing that the community is open. I mean, the dive bar is open, hours of operation. We don't want to exclude him. We don't want him to feel like he can't come back. We definitely want him to come hang out. But it's just to me remarkable because you just feel like-minded people are the ones who kind of hang. But it's important to me that people who are not like-minded also feel welcome to come hang and talk and say, "Oh yeah, I completely disagree," and "Oh, you're so wrong," and "Awesome, come back for another drink next time too." So.
No, absolutely.
That's all. Anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I think it was. I mean, we just hung out a couple days ago, and I don't think much changed since, or even since your last Thursday ep. So, yeah, I think we're ready to go.
Well, let's hit it. Let's talk a little bit of things. Let's start with SmackDown. We don't need to break down all of SmackDown because a lot of it came through on Hell in a Cell, and we'll get into that. Like Bianca Belair challenging Bayley to Hell in a Cell, Bayley taking, just running out and beating the shit out of Bianca, and then saying yes ultimately later on in the night. But like that stuff, it was what it was. It was a good segment. Let's see, Dawkins was beat up by Otis and Gable, which I actually really enjoyed because I'm not a huge Dawkins fan. So I like watching him get beat up by Otis, and he's still got that no beard look, which is terrifying. See, Cesaro challenged Seth Rollins to match in a cell. Shinsuke defeated King Corbin for the Battle of the Crown, which actually, we can talk about that for a second. I'm really excited about Shinsuke winning that and seeing where Nakamura and Baron both go from here, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I find it interesting. My note from that match was it sucks that it wasn't commercial free. They have outstanding chemistry.
Yeah.
Nakamura and Corbin really work well together, and especially when Corbin gets the upper hand and then does something and then gets fucked over. Like, he is the best at setting himself up to get fucked over. He's outstanding. It's so good, and the two of them, they're just awesome together. That was my one thing. I said the match was dope, and it sucks it wasn't commercial free. I could watch those guys go, man. And then with all the rumors of King of the Ring, it's why I hate dirt sheets and shit. Like, it's right here to guess that King of the Ring is going to happen, and the more you hear those letters, I mean, KOR, like your logo, bro. Like, it's. Oh, yeah. The vibe of having that King of the Ring would be so amazing that, like, I don't want to hear that we might get it because they're doing a Crown storyline, but that's all I want now. But yeah, these guys are great together, and it does make me wonder, what do you do with Corbin now? But he's gone from the Lone Wolf to Constable to King, and all throughout has gotten better and better and better. So I wouldn't be surprised that he takes off after this too.
I think he does. I actually think that this is a huge indication that the dirt sheets are speaking out of their ass, because it seems to me, not that they do anything else, they have no other way to speak, to be quite honest, but I think that the fact that they just had a match for the crown and had a crown match to get a crown off of Corbin tells me that we're nowhere near bringing back King of the Ring.
Right.
Because if they wanted the crown off of King Corbin and he was going to take 3 losses to get there anyways, fucking have him lose it in the finals of King of the Ring.
Yeah.
Boom. And then not only that, you'd have a fresh rivalry anyways. Let's say he did lose to Shinsuke in the finals of King of the Ring. Then you also have a battle of Shinsuke and Corbin after the fact. We could have still had all of this and a tournament. I think the fact that they did it this way, there's no way we're getting King of the Ring. You heard it here first. All the dirt sheets, heads up their asses. It's just because I think, like you said, on surface level, you're like, oh, it's a battle of the crowns. That sounds an awful lot like King of the Ring, does it not?
Yeah.
Like, just enough to know that it's not that.
Yep. Yeah, I can guess too, right?
Yeah, 100%. And on top of that, I think that, everything that they did here could have been done in a tournament and wasn't for a reason, because they don't want to do the tournament. And I think that at the end of the day, you don't have Shinsuke be crowned a King Shinsuke without a tournament if you don't intend to leave it on him anyways for a while. So I think that even the way that Woods brought it up, because he's brought it up for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he should, but I don't think that's where we're going with it, because what are we going to do? Have Shinsuke walk around as a king with the crown that he took from King of the Ring, only to have another King of the Ring crowned later on and have him not part of that tournament or not win it? And if he wins it, isn't that obvious? Like, it seems weird. So I'm saying no. But I also think that this is where we're going to see a huge shift in Corbin, and I think this is where Corbin really ends up in, like, that Universal World title picture area, which we always wondered why he wasn't ever quite at. I think that's where he's headed next, because I think this is where we're going to get a more true-to-life Corbin. And if you're ever familiar with his social medias, he's an expensive cigar, lavish life, expensive meat, a lot of preparation time in his meats, and then expensive watch, expensive cars. He's a man of leisure on his social medias, and a man of great wealth. I think what you're going to see, because he's a suits kind of a guy, I think we're going Kingpin route. I think we're going to see like a Daredevil villain style, always with a cigar, really nice watch, always in a suit, I'm better than you kind of a deal.
And he's sprinkled that in too. He's mentioned the value of his outfits before and his watch before.
Yep.
So I can definitely see him going that route. Also, he's into bourbons. I'm very familiar with the social media game. I find him to be, especially when he's hanging out with friends, I find him to be incredibly awesome, which is odd to say. Like, he just seems like a regular guy, not a huge prick, but kind of like myself. Like, if you're outside my circle, I don't like you. If you're inside my circle, I fucking love you. And it comes across when he does that, you know? And I would love to see him treat everyone in WWE as if they're outside of his circle. That would be great.
Yeah, and then maybe let in one or two people. So you'd be like,
That
oh,
would be
look
even
at
better.
he's ride or die with these guys, and he's just screwing everybody else. Like, that could be absolutely. So yeah, I'm actually super excited about that. I think both of them have a lot to do after this. So I'm excited about it. And I'm not. Go ahead.
No, I think that's why, real quick, when he had the Blake and the other guy for that 1 week, a lot of people got excited because it was like, oh, now this is people who are backing Corbin to go along with the lead. You know what I mean? Like, I know I got super excited for it, and I heard a lot of chatter that, like, oh, this is a good look. The King has his knights now, like, you know, and if he needs a bishop, like, we can chessboard this.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. I'll be his pawn. No problem about it. By hook or rook, right? Is that what they say?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not bothered at all by how many matches they had. I think people complaining about that were complaining about that for no reason. I said it on Twitter the other day as we get towards the main event of SmackDown, so we can just keep it moving. Roman Reigns against Rey Mysterio Jr. Or not Jr. I say Jr. all the time, man. I feel bad about it. I grew up with it, and he's been not Jr. for many more years than Jr. and it still fucks with me. But a lot of people were complaining about Roman versus Rey just being like a, quote, zero build match, and Hell in a Cell is meant to be a blow off, and can we just get rid of Hell in a Cell already? It needs to go away. It's supposed to be a blow off match. It's supposed to be the end of a feud. How can we have even Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell, and then they have another match later? It's meant to be the end.
Right.
I don't know what Hell in a Cell matches the people who say stuff like that have ever watched.
Shouts to the dogs.
Shouts to the dogs. Because the first ever Hell in a Cell match was Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me give you a couple little highlights of the career of Shawn Michaels and Undertaker.
Oh, please.
I can tell you right now that wasn't their last match.
No?
No.
Oh.
They had one or two after that.
But it had to be like really soon after, right?
What do you mean, after Hell in a Cell?
Yeah. Or was it like, 10, 15 years later?
They had a lot throughout. Their whole entire careers were intertwined with each other all the time. Like, it was just outrageous. They never stopped having matches together. It was never a blow-off. It was actually close to the beginning of their feud.
Right.
And if you look at it from, if you scope out a little bit, it absolutely was the beginning of their feud. It just felt like it was at a turning point. It also involved It involved Shawn and Undertaker getting out of the cage, as well as involved Kane ripping the door off and going into the cage, which ended in interference and a schmoz finish with not a clean victory. What the fuck do you think Hell in a Cell was supposed to be if all of that happened in the first Hell in a Cell, and somehow afterwards we're like, oh, I can't believe they got out. Oh, why isn't this a blow-off? Because it's fucking never been that.
Ta-da.
I just don't get it. These high and mighty hardcore wrestling fans. I get it doesn't seem to have the same prestige as showing up on a pay-per-view. I think having a pay-per-view specifically ordained Hell in a Cell is a little weird.
I have a hard time.
But go ahead.
I have a hard time using the very little wrestling terms that I do. But when I see pushed and booked and blow off and build and all that stuff, and I'm like, but you don't know. Like, you're talking like you're an insider, but you're not. So, like, don't say that this guy's getting a push to a blow off match in this. Like, yes, there is natural progression of storyline, right? And I have a hard enough time saying storyline, but I watch these as stories, and like I make the same example all the time. Like, Hell in a Cell, the very first one, it wasn't the end of Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. It was the beginning of Undertaker and Kane, which actually started, I believe, like that April. of that year, and I believe Bad Blood was in November or October. I think it was October. They told the story but the debut of Kane was meant to be to show his strength of pulling the door off the impenetrable. Like, that's why. And I believe Pritchard said it on his show. That's why. The mystique of the cage was to show how strong Kane was. It has nothing to do with anything else.
Yep. It was literally,
So
what could we do to make Kane look really strong when he comes in? I don't know. Maybe we build a big cell and he breaks in. Okay. Lunar is in the chat. He says the only time it was a blow-off, he believes, is Taker versus Mankind. He goes, right? And that was probably because Mick was almost dead afterwards. You to Google. So that was King of the Ring 98. I think if you go to something like, I think you can pull up a site of
Pro-Fight DB.
Pro-Fight DB, yeah. Go there and look up Mankind matches after King of the Ring 98 and see how many of them were against The Undertaker. If it was 1 or 2, I'll give it to you. If it's anything more than that, then it absolutely was no blow-off.
I'll bring it up now.
So, but I also wanted to throw out there that as much as I think that having a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view once a year where you seem to be, quote, shoehorning matches into a cell seems aggravating or problematic to hardcore wrestling fans, I assure you that that is not for us, right? It's not the case for the casual fans. I had a friend from work.
Oh, yes.
What's up?
Yes. No. I just realized what you meant. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I had a friend at work who, I lost part of my sentence partway through. This tequila is hitting pretty good, pretty fast. I'm enjoying it. I have a friend from work who was asking me about different matches coming up, or isn't there pay-per-view? And he said there's something about he remembers Hell in a Cell, and he goes, that was cool. I was like, oh, you're in luck. That's actually this weekend. He goes, what do you mean it's this weekend? I was like, the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view is going to be this weekend. There's going to be 2 matches in the cell. At the time, I thought it was maybe 3 or whatever. I was like, it's going to be in the cell. And he goes, oh, really? He goes, I love cage matches. I'm going to watch. And he watched. Only because it was a pay-per-view where Hell in a Cell matches were going to happen. Do you think he gave 2 shits about the build? About how much their grudge match meant at the time? Do you think he gave a shit if it was a blow-off? He just was watching. Just because it was in a cell. So, yeah, it works for the nostalgic acts. It works for people who are just flipping through. Hell in a Cell? I remember Hell in a Cell. Which also leads me to my belief on why I personally think Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio in Hell in a Cell was on SmackDown. Tell me what you think about it, because I haven't seen anybody else talk about it. I think part of it was to show the large audience of like Peacock viewers and such kind of what Hell in a Cell looks like nowadays. It's not what you grew up with. It's not something you have to shield your kids from.
Right.
It's not ultra violence on the same level that the old ones were. This is something you can watch with your families and be completely engrossed in. What better example than Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio? Your son's favorite versus your favorite in a Hell in a Cell, where it's not bloody and disgusting. It's just intense and awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I think we have to give a little bit of credit here. They had 3 actual matches afterwards. 2 on Sunday Night Heat. This is Undertaker and Mankind. 2 on Sunday Night Heat in 1998, and then 1 in March of 99 on Monday Night Raw. All 3 were either a draw or DQ. They're all credited as draws. And they did have a match on Monday Night Raw following King of the Ring, but that's when Undertaker was disguised as Kane. So technically, it was a blow-off. They had a bunch of other ancillary matches, like 6-man tags or fatal 5-ways and stuff like that. But one-on-ones, they only had 3 more afterwards.
Yeah. And that also makes sense, too, because that was 2 years feuding that led to that. Because Mankind showed up in 96 and immediately went up against Undertaker. And this was Undertaker's big, like, fucking leave me alone, dude.
Yep. From King of the Ring 96 to King of the Ring 98, they did everything together. Yeah. But yeah, back to your point about the Hell in a Cell, especially when you say, in the context of the lapsed fan, and the way you frame that, I completely get the outside perspective. of not looking at it as even the build or the wrestling match. I'm a dad, and if my kid got beat up by somebody who wasn't in the fight, I'd have a problem with that too. And that's your build. And as a dad, you go from 0 to Hell in a Cell that fucking quick.
Pretty quick.
Honestly, if his mom was out there, she would have wanted the Hell in a Cell the week before.
Yep.
So, I mean, when it comes to protecting your children, that's what you do. Now, you can say, oh, his kid's grown and all that shit. Hey, I get it. But as far as I'm concerned, he's damn near incapacitated, except for when he had the kendo stick. Like, so he took Ray to that level. It is built. But again, people want to say build and push and all that shit. And you want to use these terms instead of looking at what's on TV, taking just what's in front of you. Roman wasn't involved in the match, came in, beat the shit out of Dominic, his father, not his tag partner, his father, and he said it as his dad. So if you listen to the words, you watch what's on TV, the build was there. And for me, as a wrestling fan, I was brought in. As a dad, I was brought in. As a Roman guy, I was brought in. And Ray, honestly, the last, 6 months, has he missed?
Mm-mm.
Why wouldn't you want to see this match? And why wouldn't you be invested in Hell in a Cell? I don't understand not being invested because the story, quote, wasn't long enough. Listen to what they said.
Yeah. SmackDown gets more viewers than the WWE Network had subscribers. It just does. It just flat out does. Yeah. They had less than 2 million subscribers. They get roughly 2 million views as far as the ratings go for day of non-Fox app-related views. That means cable-only Nielsen ratings only, which is not the only way to digest numbers. Even the almighty Dave Meltzer will tell you that, but he'll only tell you that in accordance to AEW. He will give you the AEW DVR numbers and the AEW week after week numbers. Oh, viewership happened over the past week since the replays, because some TiVos and such report that back. But for WWE, he will only report the day of Nielsen ratings because he knows that the numbers are more impressive day after day. They even have ratings that are like +3s, +2s, -1s. Like, it's a weird little system. It's incredibly difficult to understand, which is why a lot of TV shows and companies just don't talk about ratings, because not only is it complicated, it's also convoluted.
Yeah.
Fox doesn't report their ratings to Nielsen. If you watch on an Apple TV or on a device or through any Fox app, it doesn't report back. So you're only talking about a specific viewership that gets recorded in that 2 million, and Network had less than 2 million. So that tells me that there's plenty of people who have the ability to watch SmackDown who probably also have Peacock and don't even realize it, because that's what happened with my buddy at work. I said, do you have the Peacock network? He goes, yeah. I was like, they added WWE to it. Look on top, there's a WWE tab. Pay-per-view is going to be this weekend. He was like, oh, that's awesome. Went back and saw him the other day, and he said, oh, I watched a few matches of Hell in a Cell. He goes, I don't remember the other guy's name, but that Bobby Lashley was a badass. He goes, I think I remember from a long time ago, and Bobby Lashley's legit, man. He was awesome. And I was like, you're goddamn right he was. And then I thought, hey, maybe, just maybe, it's not all about me, man. You ever think about that,
right?
Wrestling fans? I mean, Stephanie McMahon said it in one of her business calls towards the end of the pandemic. This time frame was like a month or two ago, where they said, what is something you've learned through the pandemic? And they said that nostalgia for our product is invaluable, that there's a huge demand for the nostalgia. That's why you've seen a bump up of these A&E documentaries, finding old stuff, these recaps, these biographies, why you will always see a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view once a year, because it's a nostalgia pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell, to them, is the same as Throwback SmackDown. It's getting people who don't watch all the time to see a couple words they recognize and go, oh, you know what? I did like that. Let me see what it looks like now. That's all. That's all. And I'll say this about Rey Mysterio. You said it. 0 to Hell in a Cell really quick for it apparent. Also, maybe Hell in a Cell was on Rey Mysterio's mind because it was fucking hanging above the ring and he knew it was available.
Yeah, if you want to kayfabe it, for sure.
Yeah. just from a kayfabe perspective, I want him in a no holds barred match. I want him in a no DQ match. I want him in a beat the shit out of a match. Holy shit, is that a celibate? Put me in that one. That's a good one. It was right there. Like the idea that, like, how did we get here? Because he's mad and it was there. What the fuck else do you need? Like,
yeah. If this was in December, he would have called him out in the TLC match. I mean,
yes.
It's what they do. It's like you said when you said that when you said that the other day, I was like, son of a bitch. Yes. It was just right there. Why not?
Why wouldn't he say that? If there was a bunch of kendo sticks lying around, he's gonna say kendo stick match. You know what I mean? So when that kendo stick ended up by his foot, do you think he looked at it and go, I better go get a table? No. He saw the kendo stick and go, oh, I can smack the shit out of him with this.
Yep.
Sometimes you use what's available to you because you know it's there. Fucking ridiculous. Guys, relax. Do you guys not want to watch to have fun? You're not trying to enjoy it? That's so weird. I mean, I'll give you. I go to theme parks just to eat the food and not enjoy the rides. I will give you that.
Hysterical.
But I'm not going to shit on people who are having fun on the ride. God Lord.
You should.
Anyways, let me hit the chat a little bit. Just in time did say a little bit ago, now that you mentioned Spinner Fox, we're going to get a repeat from when Fab Tina spoke him into the chat during, I believe it was episode 1, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I remember that. It was so good. Fab Tina said was like, oh, no, not like a Splinter Fox thing. And all of a sudden it was like, bloop, hey, guys, I made it. And like, oh, shit. Let's see. And then Kuro says, I got yelled at by wrestling fans. I compared Orange Cassidy to Reginald. I could see how that way, the way that would make people upset. Because Reginald's very skilled and entertaining.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
So I could see how people could be triggered. Kuro does say, wrestling is only about me. And he goes, nah, he went and got a hand from under the ring. Yeah, someone from under the ring threw him a kendo stick, and he didn't go like, no, get me a chair. I wanted a chair. That's what I had in mind. We've built to a chair, realistically.
Yeah.
Yeah, get out of your ass. All right, anything you want to say about those things? And then if not, just get into Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio Hell in a Cell match. I think we did a lot of build towards why people make me mad.
Yeah. I mean, you know the deal. I mean, we talk about this
I'm going to call those
often.
rants. I'm going to start clipping those rants and call it a "This is why I drink" rant.
Nice. Nice. Call it not so happy hour. Yeah, it's insane the amount of people. Like when Samoa Joe showed up last week, I went mute heavy with the people who are just dying to say, oh, this is now NXT's good. No, it was good before. Say, oh, shouts to the dogs. If you have an opinion of certain things because you take it for what it is, sure. If you don't like the match because the match wasn't good, that's fine. If I like the match because I thought it was good, that's fine. But if you don't like the match because the build wasn't long enough in your mind, but you didn't look at the build, that's not fine. Look at the build.
Yeah.
And then when you come back next Friday and go, oh, they're still doing this? Well, no, stop watching. So I mute like crazy now. I love it. It's my favorite button on Twitter.
Dude, I mute so hard. Let's see. Kuro's saying, is Hornswoggle living under there again? Yeah, he was. We'll talk about that during the Drew match. And then Kuro says, no, Marsh, beat Family Guy to it and call it Grind My Gears because they never trademarked it. Yeah, but Grind My Gears has nothing to do with drinks, man. I'm a drinking show.
It's true.
I mean, I try to tell people I'm not a drinking show, but I drink every episode. But I'm only on episode 1. So,
yeah, you've only drank on the first episode.
Just the first one.
Dude,
what do you think about Roman Reigns?
The leader in your subs now.
Yeah, he's a badass, and I feel bad because I feel like he's not in the chat right now because I feel like he feels personally attacked because he was pretty upset about the Hell in a Cell stuff. But I do think of him as the Dawn of the IWC. He's the curator of this side of the RWC, and
dude,
I think he's very representative of a larger mentality, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
I mean, we put him over like crazy. No, you're not. You're not still here.
He's not still here. He says he's still here. He's definitely not. He feels
No, he's
personally
not.
attacked. He's quietly drinking, sipping in the corner, going like, "I can still hear you." That's what he says. Yeah, no, I love the dude, and I do think that he speaks. He speaks not on behalf of the IWC, but he speaks with a very similar mentality of a lot of people out there, and I think that it's really awesome because he does it succinctly. He does it. He's very well spoken about it. He makes his point and gets out. Like, he doesn't get into these
All right,
weird,
we
crazy
get it.
arguments.
You put him over enough. He's back in the
That's what I'm
chat. Everything's
saying.
fine. Yeah, you don't have to.
Which
keep
is
going.
why you can give him a follow and not follow a bunch of the rest of those people out there, because you'll get what you need. But I wasn't meaning. I didn't. He probably felt singled out. I wasn't trying to single him out. Kiro says, except for me. That's true. But the Roman Reigns Rey Mysterio match I thought was fucking phenomenal, man.
Outstanding.
All the stuff with Jimmy afterwards, like, it was just so good. I mean, it's just, you can't miss, man. There's just no missing.
Yeah. Ray hasn't missed in months. He just gets, he's getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. And I mean, when we were kids, Ray was the coolest fucking person in the world. I mean, number one, he had 3 names, so that makes you cool. He has the dopest masks. He does the dopest moves. Every time I watched him, I'm like, you are fucking awesome. They took his mask off in WCW. I'm like, this is fucking weird. He shows back up in WWE, and I'm like, oh shit, Rey Mysterio's back. This is fucking awesome. And he's got the mask on. Like, and as much as he's done great shit in the past, even what he was doing, like the build all the way to the finale of getting his eye taken out, wasn't as clean as what he's done now. Like,
Yeah, but even that stuff he wasn't doing poorly. He did
no,
awesome in the eye match.
But he looked like the old guy that can still wrestle,
Yeah.
He doesn't look that way to me. I mean, he looks like he's shed a couple pounds, and has just gotten cleaner and cleaner, faster and faster, more snow. I mean, he just looks great. And I can't, I mean, I watched the match twice, and all I kept saying is, fuck, this is good.
Yeah,
Like, it's so good.
Sometimes watching Mysterio is almost upsetting because you realize he's never not been on this level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, every match he has, you go, God, how is he still this good?
Yeah.
Especially when you turn on to other networks on other nights and you go, yeah, that guy lost it a long time ago. But
Let's not do this.
I'm not doing it. I didn't say anything. It could have been anybody. It could have been, what I say? I'm not saying who, when, what. I'm not saying what demo they are gods of, but I'm saying that Rey Mysterio is so good that every time I watch him in a match, sometimes it's all like, what's so cool about this is I know that producer did not watch wrestling growing up. And there's, as much as you can say, hey, there's amazing Mysterio matches you should go back and watch, and you should see Havoc with Guerrero and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's also a really cool part where you just go, nah, you've seen him. Like, don't even worry about what you've missed. You're getting him. You're getting him like we always got him. Like, he's this good for always. It's incredible.
And to still do all that cool shit, and he did it like adapting to his ability. Like, there could be another guy on another network who does like this moonsault off the middle rope that doesn't always look good. Ray doesn't do all the same flips and shit that he does. I mean, when he came out with the fucking belly slide to the outside, I was like, that's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's insane.
And then he did it with a chair. I'm like, this is even better.
Yeah.
And then he did it and caught a Samoan drop by one of the Usos, and I'm like, this is even better. Like,
yeah, because he doesn't. Here's the thing: is that I feel like with a Mysterio, it's not like here's the shit I do, let's get my shit in. It's here's what I'm physically capable of doing. How can we
make this work?
Twist that. Yeah, I physically do this.
Yep.
What if we did something off of the back of that? You know what I mean? Because he's establishing that these are his moves. He's establishing this is what he does. So now you've also established that there's got to be at least a counter.
Yeah.
And if Jimmy's like, I think I could catch you. He's like, yeah, catch me then. Like, you know what I mean? It's incredible.
Yeah, I absolutely loved the match. I thought it was great.
Yeah. Kiro does say he in turn speaks for all Canadian wrestling fans. That's true. Just in Time is speaking for our side of the IWC, and then Kuro speaks on behalf of Canadians, and that's pretty much how I keep worldwide dominance.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Makes sense.
Just kicking it. Jeremy does say Ray looks so comfortable while he's working with Dominic. I think Dominic coming in the way he did when he did, I think gave Ray a whole new breath of life. Where I think that a lot of people, including Ray, thought like, okay, I'm wrapping it up. This is probably my last year. I think Dominic coming in was just kind of like, I don't know, keep rolling, keep playing it through. I think we got another few years with him now. Where I was going to say that this was probably our last year. Now, I think we got a couple more years of him. I really do. And
2, 3. Yeah.
And that is no complaint. Not at all.
No, and could you imagine? I mean, and not that I want because I said it after the Usos stepped in the ring with them and had that phenomenal match. I want them to lose the titles, but could you imagine just Dom and Ray as a tag team for the next 2 years? And just like with this match, every once in a while, Ray has a 20-minute main event. Like, yeah. For the next 2-3 years, and we get what, like maybe 4 or 5, more high-profile Rey Mysterio matches. This one came out of nowhere. It didn't disappoint. That's what's going to happen every time. I'm here for it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree entirely. I've got no issues of seeing Ray forever. Lunar does say Ray has literally said that Dominic has refreshed him. Oh. Well, then call me a journalist, dude.
Yeah, man.
This
and
is
let
how
Aaliyah start
journalism
wrestling
works.
So you can get refreshed again.
Yeah. Once Aaliyah starts wrestling, got another 10 years out of him. I just want to point out that this is wrestling journalism in the nicest possible way. Yeah. If you just watch and understand even a little bit of psychology with humans, it's not hard to guess this shit. Just understanding psychology a little bit and hearing a couple of interviews with Ray. Apparently, I hit it on the nose, something else he said in a different interview I didn't even hear. So, boom, journalism.
Hey, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned it briefly. What did you think of Jimmy standing side by side with Roman without actually bending the knee?
No one's had to physically bend a knee to him.
Well, you know what I mean.
That was exactly what it was, though. That was him as acknowledging him. He lifted his arm up and acknowledged him as the champion. He acknowledged him as the tribal chief because he knows that that's the only way he's getting his brother back. His brother's not coming back because he said, you go get your brother back. You go find him. When he's like, oh, I'll be there for you. He goes, I don't fucking need you around me, dude. Go get your goddamn brother. And he couldn't. He couldn't get his brother back because it was going to... His brother wasn't going to take being torn in half anymore. And Jimmy's alliance to Jay is stronger than anything. And so he acknowledges Roman Reigns to get his brother back. I don't think that's the end of it. I don't think they just ride or die forever. I mean, there's a good chance of that. But I do think that this is to get his brother back because until they're working side by side again, he's going to need to make it Jay's idea. You know what I mean? If I'm talking long-term subtleties, it's going to have to become Jay's idea for them to turn on Roman. And Jimmy's already going to be there. I got you, But he needs him back because he can't do it alone and he knows it. And he knows, because he said it a bunch of times, Roman will never tell you he needs you. I'll tell you right now, I need you.
Right.
I think that's what it was. He's acknowledging it to get his brother back.
I like it. I like it. See, that's the thing. I didn't look at it that way because I was never a fan of Jimmy, just popping off at the mouth, talking all this shit, and never catching his, as they say in the business, receipt. Never having to go through, not necessarily what Jay went through, but at least some type of turmoil, physically. Going through the emotional turmoil because Roman and Jimmy were like, hey, Jay, you make the decision. And then, as you just said, he's making the decision for Jay. Jimmy's making the decision for Jay. I love that idea. I think of this as singular in a Roman aspect. I wasn't looking at it in the Usos context. And that makes a ton of sense that way. Because I mean, look, Jimmy has said it. I acknowledge you, man. Hell in a Cell last year. Like, I acknowledge you. We're good on that. I need this. And I'm still waiting for Jimmy to have to fall in line, not choose to do it on his own accord. And that's what it felt like. That Jimmy was choosing to do it because he had nothing else to do, as opposed to being forced to be in that position. And I believe that Roman owes Jimmy a little bit more physical redemption, or at least some type of trial and tribulation before he's even allowed to sit down at that seat. Just based on the character of Roman.
I don't know. Roman's smarter than that. And Roman knows both those guys. Roman knows because he's been doing it since they were kids. He knows he can beat up Jay until Jay just gives him what he wants. But he knows Jimmy's the strong-headed one.
Yeah.
He probably knows that you can beat the shit out of Jimmy every fucking day, and he's not giving you his fucking fruit roll-up. He just won't. Right. He will eat it with bloody teeth himself in front of you, but he knows that Jimmy will give you his fruit roll-up in a second if you tie up Jay.
Which is what he did in Hell in a Cell last year.
Yep. It's exactly what he showed in Hell in a Cell last year. The reason he could make Jay quit was because he knew that Jay would give it up for Jimmy anytime. But he also knows Jimmy wouldn't do the same the other way. Jimmy's more strong-headed than that. But he leads with his heart, right? So, hey, you're tearing Jay apart. He can't have that because he's the protector of his brother Jay.
Right.
I think it's just that deep, man.
That's awesome. I'm here for it.
Those are the emotions I get when I watch them. That's why I keep saying they're different. They're on a different level. They're doing stuff that nobody's doing. Because when I'm watching those interactions and I'm watching their eyes and I'm watching the way they talk to each other, those are the feelings I'm getting. But, you know, some guys want to be like, why was it in a cell? So. Here's the thing about it. Dude, let's talk Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, man.
You in it?
No. I'm not in a cell.
Yeah. No, you're in the cell. Here's the deal. It opened up during the kickoff show with Natalya versus Mandy Rose. And normally we don't always talk about the kickoff show stuff, but this match was fucking good, man. I felt like Mandy could have sped up a little bit. I felt like she was a little slow, and it had moments in there that we've talked about before with like Natalya's coaching moments taking precedence over the fluidity of the match at times. And I felt like that kind of showed a little bit here. But at the same time, I thought that this was a perfect match to have on a kickoff show. If you actually are trying to get people to stick around for a pay-per-view, go out there and have two pretty women have a really good wrestling match and show people this is what we do now. Because you're also, people keep forgetting that they're in front of 34 million people than they used to be.
Right.
The network had shy of 2 million on a good night. Peacock's got 34 plus on a bad night. So they have to show people it's different now, that it's not what you grew up on. It's not the Attitude Era. They need to highlight what makes them different now. Look at everyone's still good looking. Everybody's still in shape. Everybody wrestles. But look at the women aren't doing mud matches. They're actually incredible wrestlers who put on fascinating technical matches. And I thought this was a great example of that. Awesome way to use the kickoff and a really good way to see those two wrestle, see what they got.
Yeah, I didn't catch much of the match. We were trying to get set up, and even when I went back to rewatch, I missed the kickoff show. I always forget to watch it as part of it, so I did miss most of it. But I've been such a big fan of Mandy. Every time she gets on TV, she looks stronger and stronger. And as you were describing the match to me while we were trying to get set up for the watch along, I mean, I vibe with you on that. Like even when we have our difference of opinions of how things are going, particularly in the ring, when it comes to Natty, I mean, I fully trust your opinion on the execution of the match. If you say it was a dope way to start it, I wouldn't disagree with you.
No. And they're just two great competitors. Do you like, as much as I like, how Mandy is getting more and more New York in every promo?
Yeah, for sure. She, look, I've said it several times, especially over the last couple weeks. there's nothing more attractive than being yourself. And when a lot of these wrestlers are starting to incorporate more and more of their own personalities and their own, let's say, physical actions, I mean, Mandy's what? She was a fitness model, right? So she has those moves in her.
Yeah.
Do the moves. So as she brings in her verbiage, she's going to bring that swag to what she does. She's just going to feel more natural. It's going to look more natural. And I think that's fantastic. The growth of Mandy is phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's more than just eye candy now, no offense, but her getting more screen time to do more shit, she's going to be more than just an attractive person. And I find that to be fantastic.
100%. Dude, I get such a kick out of it because you start hearing her stuff all like, you start hearing those drawn out vowels.
Yeah.
And you go like, okay, we're getting a little bit of a Mandy S. I forget her last name. It's Sacramaro or something like that. She has a very Italian last name.
And she's from further north than I am. So.
Yeah, but she's still actually in New York.
She's in Tampa now, motherfucker.
Yeah, New York proper, as we say, in my side of the IWC. Let's see. We did have Hell in a Cell, though, open up with the main event, which is spectacular. I always like a good show to start with the beginning and work its way backwards. It opened up with Bianca Belair versus Bayley. Like I said, we're not going to talk in depth about all of these. I did want to talk a little bit more in depth about that kickoff show because we didn't talk about it much on the drink along, as it were,
yes.
Because of we were drinking. So this one did open up with Bianca and Bayley, and I will say that after rewatching this match, my thoughts post-match that I said on there, I still feel entirely valid on that. This was a very good match. I thought that both players executed exceptionally well. There was a lot of funny stuff that I don't know if we caught. I don't think we caught it during the watch along. When Bayley pulls out the kendo sticks that are taped together, and Michael Cole says all like, Bayley attempted this several times multiple times in the last one, and she just goes, "Shut up, Michael. They know. They watch me." And goes over to Bianca. I was dying. But it was all really, really well done. At the end of the day, with as good as this was, this is where me just watching to enjoy kind of takes one step out of the pool a little bit and says, just from one of those like long-term wrestling fans, the hardcore wrestling fan in me goes, did anybody else notice that Bianca took almost no weapon shots? All of her bumps were really easy and soft. But Bayley was getting whapped. And we know that Bayley is willing to take a punishment. She's taken it in all of her weapons matches. I mean, go back to the kendo stick match, the infamous kendo stick match that, quote, ruined her career, that she would never recover from, that she was absolutely done for and buried forever. People said shit like that when it happened. And I say, thank you, wrestling journalists, for proving your worth. But in that match, Alexa didn't take a single strike from a kendo stick, and Bayley took 1,000. And they had the picture of her back all welted up and all that stuff. I kind of walked out of this match feeling really similar. Like, hey, did Bayley go out there to get beat up by a bunch of weapons, and Bianca's a little skittish on taking weapons bumps? This is when we get a little. This is me being a little insider-ish. Where surface level, fantastic match, incredible women's match, great retention of the title, all of that's perfect. But if I'm getting a little bit tipsy into the insider talk, did you feel like Bianca kind of took it easy out there with the bumps?
I'll tell you this much. I think I have a much worse opinion of this match in the same direction as you do.
Okay.
I remember your opinions mid-match. I remember you saying most of this mid-match, and I was along the line. I was agreeing. It definitely felt that way. When I watched it back,
yeah,
I was almost disgusted. I said it on the watch along that Bayley is Bianca's best dance partner as of the date. Like, as of right now, best dance partner. She gets a better match out of Bianca than we've seen.
Yes.
When I watched it back, I felt like this was Bailey wrestling a broomstick. That old analogy, it felt so fucking true that Bailey was wrestling the broomstick of Bianca. Every time Bailey was doing something, there was a fluidity to the moves that had to happen to keep the match going. Every single time Bianca was to be on offense, it was, here's Bianca's move, Bailey now has to sell. It was never within fluidity of the match. And I felt so bad for Bailey because, like you said, she took all the bumps. She took all the weapon shots. She gave Bianca everything. But when it came time for Bianca to look like the star, Bianca wasn't ready to get to those moments in the match. And I'm like, why is this speed slowing down on this match every time Bianca's on offense? Yeah. But every time Bailey's there, she's working all over the place. It bothered me so much.
Because like you said, I was talking about it during the match. I was like, does this seem a little Bailey heavy? Or am I... You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I know, we all know I'm biased. And I think that it's okay to be biased. But I think you have to be aware of your bias. And you have to lean into your bias and be knowledgeable of it. You got to whip out your bias from time to time. I'm saying that as long as you're openly biased and acknowledge it, that it makes the conversation go smoother, right?
Yes.
I'm biased towards Bailey. She's one of the reasons I started watching again. I was so impressed initially, and I feel like I've never been let down since. Even though other things around her has been disappointing, I've never felt like she's disappointed. But this is one of those ones where I'm watching going, like, is my bias in the way? Because right now I feel like Bailey is a star, and Bianca's hanging out. That's not to say that Bianca doesn't have star power, and that she doesn't have the athleticism. She is everything it takes to be a star. But I wonder where her heart's at in it when I think of, like we said, we're in Hell in a Cell, man. Yeah. What more heart do you need than just the classic example of the 98 Hell in a Cell King of the Ring Foley falling through the cage, falling off the cage, nearly dying a dozen times. Undertaker saying, hey, can you check if he's alive? Terry Funk going out there being, I just got to double check if he's alive. He's half dead in the back saying, sorry, I didn't do the thumbtacks, with thumbtacks in his fucking face.
Well, let me stop you right there real quick. The more perfect example is his Hell in a Cell against Triple H, where they recreated the falling through it on purpose.
Yes.
He gave himself back up on purpose because he knows how special that is.
Yeah.
So to not even do it within the modicum of the match, like as the match is flowing together, you're not going to give in. And look, if they did it to where Bianca avoided all of those in a way that looked like she's just way too athletic and Bailey's too focused on weapons, there's a story you can tell me. Absolutely. I didn't feel that at all. It just felt like Bailey's doing all this. Oh, now it's Bianca's turn. Bailey's doing all this. Now it's Bianca's turn.
Yeah. Bailey's getting the shit kicked out of her by weapons, and then Bianca's just like, all of a sudden Bailey just doesn't know how to swing a kendo stick. And you're like, okay, I guess that's interesting. Let's see, in the chat real quick, Justin Time says, Bailey said, fuck it, I'm wearing a Cactus Jack vest, so I'm going to bump my ass off like him as well. I will say that was poetic because who do you think of for Hell in a Cell but Mankind, and who's never won a Hell in a Cell? Mankind. Mick Foley. You know what I mean? Even in any iteration, he's been in Hell in a Cells and never won one. So I thought it was really kind of cool. And then Lunar says, speaking of bumps, it's time for me to go. No, whatever, dick.
He's got dick bumps?
Yeah, I gotta lift weights. I'm Lunar with my muscles. That's what he sounds like to me. He's
Is that what I heard? Though. Producer lady getting her microphone ready?
Yep, she's getting it ready.
Nice. All muffled
Your
and
mic
stuff.
Is on, I think, so I think he heard you on the mic.
Yeah, I heard a zipper, and I was like, wait, I can't see Marsh on camera. What's he doing to the monitor?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought the match was good. But like you said, to me, Bailey, I walked out of it a little bit with a little more respect for Bailey and a little less for Bianca. That's not to say that I don't respect Bianca. I definitely do. And I think she's got every I don't think there's any reason she shouldn't be the champion right now. But I will say, I don't think Bianca had any business being in a Hell in a Cell match. Does that make sense?
Look, no, I think she took like 10 steps backwards for me. I was on the fence for a long time. I mean, my comments after Royal Rumble hold true, and I stand by them. She had X amount of time to get her shit together. Yes, I will agree with everyone out there that her and Sasha delivered at WrestleMania. But are we talking about a wrestler who is absolutely capable of performing on a scripted level? And as long as we don't pay attention to that and she sticks to that script, we get amazing matches. I'm fine with that. But the portrayal and the performance and what we just watched is not on that championship carrying level. We've said this as outsiders all the time, right? Does the champion make the title? Does the title make the champion? Did the Universal title do for Braun Strowman what Roman Reigns is doing for the Universal title? You know what I mean? What is Bayley doing for this title? What is that title doing for Bayley? I forgot who said it. Oh, I'm sorry, for Bianca. Somebody said it on a podcast. Bianca's a main eventer. Her status, the way she looks, her presentation, she looks like a main eventer. Okay. Put her there without the title and leading matches against what would be considered lesser talent, and let me know if she's still there. Personally, I don't buy it. And if that's the case, then we need to be honest about what we're seeing and not give too much credit if it doesn't exist. What's that famous video of Bret Hart and that big guy who didn't make
Tom
it
McGee.
afterwards? Tom McGee. And I only compare it to that because what's carrying the load here? Is it Bret Hart or is Tom McGee that good? They found out Tom McGee's not that good. Bianca's going to be way better than Tom McGee ever was. But is she that now? I don't think so. And I think it showed.
And to be fair to your comparison, Tom McGee was a specimen. He was physically everything you would want out of a pro wrestler. He had the look and he had raw athletic ability. He was doing flips and cartwheels and he was taking to it slowly, but taking to it. Like, I agree with you that Bianca's always going to be better than Tom McGee because she's taking to it quickly. But I do think that there's a fair comparison there of like, hey, when you have that raw athletic ability and then you have someone as technically sound and as wrestling minded as a Brett, the role model Bayley, that you could end up with really fantastic matches where it's harder for people to say which is the one that's supposed to be champion here. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like they said in that the Tom McGee and Brett one. Oh, you're looking at the next world champion. And at the end of the day, they were looking at the wrong person, but they said the right words. So I don't know. I hear you. I don't agree or I don't disagree with you. I don't know. It's just kind of how I felt at it watching it. I was all like, Bayley's something else, and Bianca shouldn't have been in this match. And I don't think that that's a total knock on Bianca. I think, honestly, it's like I was saying with the kendo match before. That match should just not happen. If you're not having two competitors who are willing to take the same bumps, just don't do that match. And that happens sometimes. They get in these matches where it's like, oh, it should be here. And then you get to the point of execution, and it's like, look, I just don't want to do that thing. And it's like, well, we don't have a lot of options now.
Well, yeah,
So
and to
go
your
fucking
point,
do
I
the
mean,
thing.
if they went John Cena, AJ Styles, and they stayed inside the ring for 25 minutes, do I have this same opinion? Probably not, because you don't see as many gaps, and it's a tighter scenario to make it to look that well. So I definitely could say if this match wasn't this particular match, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But let's run through a little bit more here. Cesaro and Seth Rollins. Anything you want to say about that other than just, I mean,
Clinic.
Yeah.
On how to do wrestling well, and maybe that was also the palate cleanser from the match beforehand. But when you talk about just doing wrestling well, just pulling the glove off and punting it and having a little bit of storyline inside of really dope wrestling, I mean, it's just that's how you do wrestling well.
Yeah. It was just basically flawless. Some people have the problem that we've already shit on once before. I think it was back on episode 1, and I think again on episode 1, and I think one other time on episode 1. That oh, they win one, they lose one, 50-50 booking, a horrible thing. Or you just solidified Cesaro and Seth Rollins as being on equal playing fields, and Seth Rollins is considered one of the greatest wrestlers of all time and is a champion who's held literally every title multiple times. So is it the worst thing that Cesaro's being booked on equal footing as Seth Rollins? Is that a horrible thing? He lost this one, yeah, but he's won several. He won the one at Mania. Is this a terrible thing here, Bishop?
No, and I get it too. I mean, like, because the immediate thought is that Seth Rollins is now on the same level of Cesaro, not the other way around. And that's just the, wrestling Twitter or what have you being indoctrinated with the negative side of it. To say that this diminishes the value of Cesaro, I mean, look, we all wish our wrestlers who look great get a head of steam and go forward. But, I think it was either Foley's birthday or the day of his documentary, Sheamus and Cesaro were like, yo, thanks for saving our careers. And if you remember, that came off of a best of 7 of two guys who were just mid-carding turned into one of the dopest tag teams, most believable tag teams we had. So if it is more short term to go, this 50-50 booking, instead of waiting for what the end, because that definitely wasn't the last match that they're going to have. And that might just be like, it might feel like time wasted in the prisoner of the moment. But upon rewatch, I was like, this match was fucking awesome. What's going to happen next? Which is probably how we should have looked at it, at the moment of the match.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, Cesaro and Sheamus was literally a best of 7 that went to a tie because of 50-50 booking that turned into the bar. Yep. Like, what a horrible thing 50-50 booking was, is it showed that two competitors are so fucking good that they have chemistry on a different level and became one of the greatest tag teams they'd seen in a long time. The other thing, what happens in 1.5 years down the line when Seth Rollins has a world title?
Yep.
And all of a sudden Cesaro's music hits. What do we all say at that point? Oh, here comes more shitty 50-50 booking? Or, Cesaro beat Seth Rollins a number of times in the past. There's no reason he couldn't win again. Yeah, he beat him at Mania in a one-on-one match. There's no reason to believe. You know what I mean?
To your point earlier about Baron Corbin, if he comes out of this Nakamura thing pushing towards the Universal title, what did he do a year and a half, 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. He was throwing dog food all over Roman Reigns.
Goddamn right he was.
So, and not to call that long-term booking, it's to just go back to what did they do to establish that base of work for a familiar storyline. So absolutely, this is definitely prisoner of the moment stuff, and I'm a victim of it too. I don't want to. I want to see Cesaro continue to get wins. So when he does face Roman again, like he did the first time, we go, oh my God, he's going to get it this time. And that's just not where we are right now. But yeah, like you said, I mean, you got to start somewhere, and he's doing great. So,
dude. And with WWE, it's a lose-lose situation. They do 50-50 booking between Cesaro and Seth Rollins, and it's what bullshit is this? They're both on the same playing field. But if this had been reversed, if Seth Rollins beat Cesaro every time, it's, they've just beat Cesaro into oblivion. He's buried forever. If Cesaro beat Seth Rollins every time, it's, I guess that's the end of Seth Rollins, and WWE know him. No, I guess he's just been smashed down to the beginning of the card. Way to go, former world champion. Fucking means nothing around here. You're like, what the fuck do you want? The producer has something she wants to say here.
Oh, I was just going to read the chat. Jeremy Steven is saying, are you implying that there could be long-term storytelling? IWC uses that phrase a lot for a certain company in Jax.
You just wanted to read it out loud? I thought you had something you want to say about it. Oh, interesting take. I agree that the idea of long-term storytelling has been completely utilized to excuse and to connect things that are otherwise irrelevant for a long period of time. I do think that the Mega Powers Explode was true long-term storytelling, where they knew that they were going to a match at Mania the year following, so they started planting seeds along the way. I don't think that Shawn Spears joining the Inner Circle was long-term storytelling, because MJF and him sat next to each other during one episode of Dynamite at the
Right.
beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
I think you can use it to connect things if you'd like, if it makes you feel better. But I don't think for a second Tony was like, let's have the two of them sit together because in 9 months, I'm going to have MJF build his own faction and he's going to be a part of it.
Right.
Yeah, 9 months! 9 months! 9 months from tonight on Dynamite! 9 months from tonight on Dynamite in 9 months!
Look,
That's
I
not
tell
how
you,
that
I
fucking
was
played out.
I was no more shocked than any other time in my life watching wrestling than going back to rewatch some of the Attitude Era stuff to see the first ever Paul Bearer promo mentioning something of Kane. And that shit was in like, I believe it was after WrestleMania in April. Yeah. He just goes, it's something to the effect of like, I know your secret, Undertaker. I know your secret. And then it was either week after week or month after month, they would do another one. And he would give a little bit more. And then it wasn't until October Kane debuts, and then they don't touch until WrestleMania. That is long-term storytelling, where you actually give bits and pieces to get there. If Roman and Corbin wrestle again, even with the bloodline formed and all that shit, it's not going to be long-term storytelling from the last time. No, they're going to build off the base of what they've done before and go ahead.
Yes.
And that's fine to admit as well, that there's prior history. It's not all storytelling.
I think sometimes you have happy accidents where you go like, hey, we got this match building up. I think we have enough old footage to make a video package. Like, yeah, great, do it.
Right.
I think of Cena Bray.
Like Cena Bray Funhouse. Yeah, was that truly long-term storytelling? Or was it them finding an incredible opportunity to do something great and make a new star?
Option B.
I think maybe it's option C, a little bit of both. Like, I think that there's, you know what I mean? Like, there's enough.
Well, it's not done without the history.
Right. And that's what I mean is that, like,
yeah.
because wrestling is what it is, and because you're a company like the WWE that says, hey, 50 years we've been doing this, you know at any given moment you can erase something that happened to suit your needs, or you can highlight something that happened to suit your needs. Long-term storytelling is just remembering what you did before. At the end of the day, all your favorite long-term stories were fucking half of them were probably accidents. Oops. I guess they're together. Let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
sometimes
to be fair,
it's a... Go ahead.
To be fair, you're not really a good expert to talk about long-term storytelling. You're still on episode 1.
Yeah, but that's long-term storytelling. When we get to episode 2... we're going to call back to 2 years worth of episode 1s.
Dude, we got to fucking, you're going to have like 5 months of hours worth. Like where's Graham to do the math on that? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 5 months. That's how many hours you're going to have episode 1s before you get that's long term.
Can you imagine opening up episode 2 with a montage of episode 1s? Where it's just welcome to first episode, just over and over again.
Fucking gray beards and grandkids.
70 minutes of episode 1 intros? It was 70 minutes of an intro. Let's see.
Then Now Forever.
Then Now Forever, episode 1. Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler. I like it a lot. I really enjoyed it. I understand why people did not. I do agree that there's a certain aspect about Alexa Bliss that is both different from all the Bray stuff, but also kind of a cover band of the Bray stuff. It's a little bit of an homage-ish. I don't remember the name of it, but there was a Beatles cover band.
The Fab Four.
The Fab Four, as producers well aware of. That would do stuff that was like, it's all Beatles music, but they're doing things a little bit different. Or like, some of those, like, what was that lounge guy? There was a guy who did the lounge music covers of everything.
Oh, the Kenny G guy?
Not the Kenny G guy. It was this dude who turned all pop music into lounge songs. But it's like that, where it's all like, look, it's all somebody else's music. I just sing it my own way. It's like doing all the hip-hop stuff in acoustic music, like Ben Folds does.
I am waiting for a really deep story to happen with Alexa, because although I love her acting in this, I love her character, I think it's really interesting, I'm waiting for it to be, I guess, it's going to sound weird, but kind of as profound as Bray.
Yeah.
Where Bray, I feel like his stories, he doesn't have to say much or do much, but there's like a vision behind it.
Yes.
Where with Alexa, I don't feel like there's a real deep, like, simple vision. It doesn't have to be complicated, just like a reason. Like, why are you after this person? Why is Lily care? Like, I don't know a lot of these answers, and so every time I don't get answers when I see her, it makes me just a little less interested.
I do feel like we're at that point now where we're starting to see a lack of Bray Wyatt's actual influence. Because a lot of what Bray and Alexa were doing together, Bray was heavily involved in for obvious reasons. I feel like Alexa's Playground has gotten to a point where we said before, we're like, hey, it still feels like it's dragging on. These people weren't sure what the fuck to do, but they knew they wanted to do something with it. I think we're now starting to we're at that point of, well, what if we did this? Where Bray would have otherwise said, no, we're going to do this instead. This is where we're starting to see that kind of like cover band-esque kind of thing, I feel like.
Sorry, I just thought that with Bray, I get a feeling. He clearly explains why he's feeling, or what he's feeling at least. And with Alexa, I don't get that really.
Okay. Bishop, what do you think?
So, no, I get it. I completely understand that, and I understand why it bothers people to be that way, right? And to producer's point, I mean, it's Bray's baby, right? The Fiend is Bray's baby. So there's going to be an emotional attachment to what that is. When they decided to make the pivot coming out of WrestleMania, and it to be Alexa on her own, she has gone week by week to interject more of the essence of what Lily is. I mean, even when you look at last Sunday at Hell in a Cell, Marsh, me and you, we both recognize, I'm sure a lot of people did, that half the augmented reality face was Alexa, the other half was now Lily, which wasn't something that they did before. And then even on Monday, she came out with no Funhouse music font or music involved. It was a completely different theme. So there's always an evolving essence to what the character is, long-term storytelling. And I find that what they're doing, and I've been invested for a while, so I'm not looking at this with you have to buy me every single week. I'm showing up regardless. So I give it more leeway than most, especially if someone, and then producer, I know you don't tune in. Like, I know yesterday wasn't the first time you watched her. So I get it. I get how people can see it with more fresh eyes than I do. But I honestly think she's so her own at this point. Yes, the essence of Bray is there, but she doesn't wear a mask. And she uses supernatural powers in real time. It's its own entity. But to your point, it's blatantly a character, not a personality, which I definitely feel. That's why I was sucked in by the Fiend. Period. Is like, oh, this is who Bray is. This is Bray in real life. Like, it's not Bray in the suit. He transformed, and that's what was so cool about the WrestleMania moment, right? How do you get a burnt Fiend back to something normal? Oh, he metamorphosized. Like, I mean, amazing. So those emotions may not exist, but the character is there. And I think the character is that deep in what the character is. I considered this match a masterclass in storytelling. I thought they went from beginning to end, showing what the character of Alexa is with the Lily energy inside of her and what that's capable of doing. Possessing through eye contact. I thought the announcers played off that phenomenally. I think she has a very Chucky Jason vibe to her. She's small in stature. She keeps coming back. She's lethal when she gets her hands on you, no matter what happens to her. And I mean, by Reginald selling the fact that, oh, I looked at her Monday and I got possessed, and he couldn't look at her during the match. Nia accidentally catching eye contact with her making Nia do those things, and Nia didn't snap out of it until Alexa was in the chokehold. Like, all these things were happening right in front of us, and we may not have the same emotional connection as we do to Bray, but it is right there on what the character actually is. And I think a lot of people overlook it, especially the shit I see on Twitter saying that it's garbage and there's nothing to it. Like, it's right there and it's right in front of us. But if it doesn't click emotionally, I completely understand that.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at, as I'm really enjoying it, but I can definitely see where people are checking out of it at this point. At this point, like, because there was a certain point where people are saying I'm not into this, and you're like, what is wrong with you? How do you not? And at this point, I'm all like, yeah, I could see why you'd be done with it. I'm not, but I can see why people are. But at the same point, I also think that we're watching Alexa for the last year or two. We're probably going to have her before Hollywood just takes her, because the absolute just performance of what she's doing and the nuance of her character at this point, just like physically and facially, I don't think that goes unnoticed. And I don't think that she doesn't go, you mean I can make bump free money? You know? So, yeah, I loved it, but I definitely get people who didn't.
Yeah, I just hate.
Go ahead.
I just hate when people shit on it and they don't even recognize that half the shit that I just said exists.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that that's within our conversation that we just had between the three of us, but I mean, again, that's part of my muting on Twitter is people saying this is so dumb. It's a ripoff of Bray Wyatt. There's nothing to this character. No, Alexa has said it multiple times why she exists the way she does. And the lack of trying to even invest, it's like, why even fucking watching? Like,
yeah.
But if you go back and look at any of it, I mean, she tells you exactly what's going on.
I do think we're getting to a point though where, like, there's one thing to be a spin-off, there's another thing to be a cover, right? And I do think we're getting into like this weird mysticism stuff that's just different enough. I do think that it's not stand out enough.
Will it stand out if she forms a stable?
Maybe if she does something, but then people just go, it's just the Wyatt family funhouse.
Right.
Let me see.
Lose.
Yeah. Jeremy does say, do you think Lily's actually on a timeout, or do you think they're trying to write her out of the story? I do not think they're trying to write Lily out of the story. I think that we get more Lily, and we might even get a physical adaptation of Lily in some way.
And they added her to the augmented reality, so they actually put her in more than she was before.
That's a good point. I think there's a possibility where we're seeing people like Samoa Joe come back after being gone for a while. I think there's a possibility that Braun comes back, but not as Braun, but as a physical Lily, and he's got the same hair and everything. And what? What are you talking about? He's got like the hair, like the teeth and stuff, and he's just out there like, oh, get to this playground, She's not happy with me. She's pissed, dude. I saw you do it. Because it's a playground.
It's a terrible wrestling take. It is absolutely a terrible wrestling take.
Let's see. Just time to say, I have no idea what to say about the Bliss stuff right now, so I don't bother to tweet about it until I get a clear understanding. I think it's fair, too. I'll be honest. The more I don't like something, the less likely I am to tweet about it. There's no reason to put that shit out there. If I'm like, wow, I hate this, I'm not tweeting about it. I'm going to wait till something comes on that I love and say, wow, this segment was fantastic. Oh, that's a good point. Clump brought up to me in a text today. He says that he thinks that the number one reason people have issues with Alexa Bliss right now is they're not watching her stuff as a segment. They're watching her stuff as a match. And she goes, and there's a very clear difference there, that even though she's having a match, it's largely a segment and not a match. And I said, that's very fair.
And the match was pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it was. I agree. But overall, you got to view it as a segment.
But it's not believable because Shane is a MMA fighter, badass. So how can Alexa Bliss beat her? Well, she can because of the fucking story they're telling. So watch the whole thing.
Plus, also, you hated it when she was an MMA fighter and was beating everybody. Like, the amount of people who keep saying that, I'm like, you were the people who said this is awful that she's so dominant. And now you're like, why isn't she dominant? Because you shit on it for so long. Like, you guys are the voices that shit on things and then get mad when they change it. And then say, why isn't it the way that I was shitting on it before? Because you're just going to shit on it either way. Like, fucking relax. So, I don't know. Let's blow through some more of this. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Amazing match. Kevin Owens put out a tweet. Sounds like he might actually have been injured. I rewatched it, and I think he was, because he held his arm after a really weird spot to his neck. But his arm got caught on the rope for a second, and it didn't look like that was meant to be the way that it was. He also then holds his arm, gets to where he's got to be because Sammy's coming one way or another, to let Sammy fall on him, immediately rolls over and runs to the timekeeper area so he can try and get his shit together. When Sammy starts to come around, he rolls into the ring and talks to the ref. That didn't look like a dude selling. That looked like a dude being like, tell Sammy to lay off for a second. My shoulder's hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's when
post-match,
the
he
ref
did
goes
the
to
same thing the
Keffy.
ref.
Yeah, and then the ref talked to Sammy, and then the ref was really involved in that match afterwards. He wasn't as involved until that happened, and then he was super involved afterwards, really going back and forth to the point where, if you go back and listen to our drink along, we're really talking about like how comfortable they must be together to continue this match, this and that.
Yeah.
I wonder, there's part of me that thinks Kevin was supposed to win here, but because of the injury, they said put Sammy over so when he comes back, he's got a feud ready to go. You hurt me and put me out. I'll hurt you again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I mean, how special does that just make Kevin Owens?
yeah.
Like, we have to just feel lucky to watch him.
Yeah, and at one point, Pat McAfee even said it on commentary. He said, "What was it? This is the part where Kevin Owens' toughness is to his detriment. He's so tough that it's going to hurt him long term." He said something along those lines, and I was all like, "Yeah, 100%. That's what we're seeing here. Is a dude who's injured and still going." Because he sent out some tweet about how he's going to be taking some time off for a while. So, oh.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I had on it, because you covered the match exceptionally well, is at the very end when Sami Zayn was talking shit to the commentators, that McAfee was stretching out the mic on his headset instead of taking his headset off. I thought was fantastic. He's like, look, I know this guy's got gold coming out of his mouth. He needs to say it, but I also need to hear it.
Yes.
Yeah, McAfee's a fucking Hall of Famer, man. He is just has a complete understanding of what we're doing here. It's so awesome.
It's fantastic. It's so good. Let's see, as we roll through it, the Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. I've got nothing to say about that match. I wish I didn't watch it. Anything you want to say about it?
I didn't watch it twice. That spot where she missed Rhea twice and the camera caught it, I think is perfect example why we need to hold our GOATs accountable. It's ridiculous. That's the blatant example of what me and you went on a rant about. I think it was back on episode 1 when I didn't want to get into the Charlotte stuff, and we kind of went probably a little too hard on her than we should have, but still, this is why. And her fault doesn't matter. It's the lack of accountability, because we see something like that so blatant and it's not addressed.
No. Yeah, and people try to make excuses. I saw someone else say, like, it wasn't a botch. Listen to what she's saying. But she's saying things as though she's kicking someone. She's like, I'm going to kick you. You can kick me, kind of a deal. And you're like, but you're not. And then someone else was all like, oh, so heated in a fight that you're flailing around and not even making connections. It works for me. And I'm like, except it doesn't work for literally anyone else in any other match.
Right.
That was... Rhea got up and moved away, and she kept kicking because she wasn't paying attention.
And that's the kind of thing that just, like, it. Again, I've said it on your show on, I think it was episode 1. To me, when I'm watching, I'm women's wrestling above all else, because when it's great, it is fucking great. And when you talk greatness, I would like to see greatness. And when, in this instance, it's not there, and it bothers me because Rhea is my future best of all time, and she has taken a regression since WrestleMania. This match did nothing for that. Monday Night Raw did nothing for that, and I'm just like, I'm infuriated. So yeah, we probably did spend more time on this match than we should have.
She was taking a regression since last WrestleMania. It's been well over a year since she was decent. She had a blip of a rivalry with Raquel Gonzalez and one great match out of that, and that was it, and she lost it. And
if she stayed, I have confidence if she stayed, there'd be a better emphasis on her matches. And I don't talk that way where, it's the booking and all this shit. There's a presentation to her character on Raw main stage that is fucking crushing her. But the groove she got into with Raquel was the right direction, And why it stalled since the Asuka match at WrestleMania, I don't know, and it's really bothersome.
Yeah, no, she's been stalled since the Charlotte Mania. But let's see, the main event was Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. This was a series of unfortunate events. It was a really good match. It was really brutal. That ended in a roll-up, and the whole show goes off air with Drew McIntyre crying in the corner and not your champion being dominant. And I didn't know why I needed to feel sympathy for a guy who's had 1,000 chances and just isn't good enough, because he clearly loses clean. And their absolute need to protect Charlotte and Drew is the reason we're having issues with Rhea and Bobby. If you would let them take a loss, you could build new stars, but instead you want so fucking bad to protect your golden children in this way that you don't believe anyone else could ever be so big. But I don't think that Drew has anything that Bobby doesn't, and I don't think that Rhea has. I don't think that Charlotte has anything that Rhea doesn't. I think you could have 4 people on the same level, but instead you're protecting one half. And this is, to me, a big sign of that. And then afterwards, Drew sends out a tweet with pictures of his back all fucking welted. And he's literally holding on to something so he can flex harder to make his back look more muscly. And I was like, I'm not even like, come on. I don't care. I just don't care about Drew's character at this point. I don't feel bad for him. He's had 1,000 chances. He's had several championship wins. He beat Brock Lesnar in 4 minutes. Good. He's got a goddamn sword.
I really wanted to watch this match because I really like Bobby, but I'm pretty sure I just fell asleep because I was just so uninterested.
Yeah. Anything you want to say about this before we talk about Raw?
Yeah. I said it on my show, Terrible Wrestling Takes Podcast, on all audio platforms, toptakes.podcast.com to find those platforms. That I said it after last Raw that I was completely out on Drew McIntyre. I don't want to watch any more of his matches because in what they did on Monday, which I even forget what that was, last Monday, not the one that just passed, the one before that, they got me to go, oh no, I'm disinterested in the character. The character is doing nothing. During the match that we watched together, I go, oh, okay, you're proving to me that I don't need to care about Drew. Just the way the performance was, I was like, okay, well, there's nothing to care about on Drew's end. And then the clip comes out all over social media of the hidden hand under the wrestling ring.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I am like, we talked about Bianca not wanting to give to Bayley. Drew doesn't want to give to us. You get thrown off of the ring to where a table is supposed to be. Yet when the camera cuts over there after the allotted time for the broken pieces to get pushed back from underneath the ring to make it look like you went through a table and it doesn't, you showed us you didn't go through that fucking table. It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable that you're not going to do that for us. This is a game of smoke and mirrors. It comes from the carnival world. You're supposed to trick us. When I find out the trick, I don't like it. That's why a lot of people don't watch wrestling. Oh, that's fake. It's scripted. That's not real. You know what wasn't real? Drew's performance in that match. Because those welts on his back were from kendo sticks, not going through that fucking table.
Yeah.
You know who took better kendo stick shots? Dominic.
Yeah, he got his ass beat.
Yo, his arms all tied up in the ropes.
So why would I respect, and no offense to Dominic, because I am way worse off than he is, but he's fluffy compared to Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
And it just is what it is, right? Like, he's not ripped and chiseled to where the muscle is going to protect himself. Like,
right. But what did Dom do when he was showing off his welts? He stood there and had them take a picture. What did Drew say? Oh, come around the side here so I can hold onto this fucking rail and I can flex on it so my back looks more muscular. How fucking vain are you?
I'm not impressed by Drew. I don't fucking care. And the business that they are in is getting fans to care, and I don't. I'm not saying other people shouldn't, but I don't.
Yeah, in my mind, I kind of look at Drew the same way I look at Charlotte. And that I don't get anything genuine from their performance, from their speaking. So to me, I'm just like, oh, okay, well, you're doing whatever you think is good, but you don't really care about what you're doing for the fan.
And it's the weirdest thing because Drew said that this is the most real his character's ever been. It's really a part of him. This is really like who I am. Why do you feel more phony than ever, dude?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he gave more to Sheamus. He gave more to Sheamus in the, what was it, the Falls Count Anywhere match?
Yeah.
Where they were jumping off the fucking the Thunderdome and shit. And even then, Sheamus took more of the damage.
Yeah. Justin Time says, it made no sense that Drew went through a 25-minute brawl and had too many welts to count, but a spine buster off the apron through a table was too much. Like, what the hell? Yeah, and that's one of the ones that's weird, too, because I know people were trying to say there was a crash pad there. I was thinking maybe it was an editing thing, but then I thought, you know what, if it wasn't being filmed live, you wouldn't have cut the hand in. Someone would have caught that, surely. But maybe they just didn't move fast enough to get the shit out of the way. Like, I don't know. It was a little weird, but at the same time, why is Drew not saying, no, just put a table down, I'll go through it. That's what we do here. You know what I mean? Like, it seems weird. That seemed so out of place in that regard.
And honestly, I gotta give props to Lana. She went through like a dozen tables.
Yeah.
What? As
Lana,
much as
tougher than Drew McIntyre. You heard it here first.
And we used to really not be into her character, but you gotta hand it to her, man. She went through like a dozen tables.
That's a good point. Lana can have all the hands.
Check back the catalog. Check back the catalog. TWTakesPodcast.com. I was giving her props from day one. It's about what you're willing to do for us. And when people were shitting on the Lana spots, what was she willing to do? She was willing to put her body through that table for our enjoyment. Where does this go? And it led to her getting better in ring as a wrestler a couple months later. Unfortunately, she's not here anymore, is what it is. But I agree with you. When Lana was doing those things and people were shitting on it, I'm like, but she's doing it for us. She's going to get better in other aspects as long as she's still on TV. And she did. She wasn't perfect. But if you're not willing to do it for us, then why would I care?
Yeah. No, by that last match, she was putting on a good match. Jeremy said, the more spotlight Drew gets, the more self-centered egotistical he becomes, which I think is really what it's coming off as, and that's why I keep saying lean into this heel aspect of Drew. There's a lot of heelish tendency that this Drew character has that they're trying to think we don't notice. It's like, no, he's becoming so self-centered and so vain, and it's all going to his head. And if this is the build that they get there, so he finally snaps and says, that's it, I'm robot again, then fuck it. But at the end of the day, at this point, like, are you trying to get a slow turn of the audience against him? Or, like, because maybe, I feel like a lot of people are getting fucking tired of it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not gonna go well with the live crowd, I feel like.
If he was a heel,
he leans in. Go ahead. What's it?
if he was a heel and that video comes out, all he has to say is, I'm not going through a table for you guys. I got people working for me.
Maybe.
They pulled the table. You know, like you can recover from this. You can't recover from this.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to ignore it. They'll take it off of Peacock. It won't be in the rewatch, but we saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be laughing the way I was with Eva Marie. I'd be like, "Oh, that's a dick move, man.
Yeah.
That's such a dick move." But hey, you're supposed to be the heel, so I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Yep. Anything else you want to say about Hell in a Cell before we talk about Raw?
Nah, man. Decent pay-per-view. I don't think it played off the way the match announcements looked, because like I was saying, there were so many WrestleMania matches on there. You know, they even added another one on there, and it just didn't come off as WrestleMania quality. Too many just execution errors that took some fun out of it. But, you know, if Kevin Owens is really hurt, hopefully he heals up well.
I do think that it was better than people give it credit for, to be quite honest. I think people are shitting on it pretty heavy. I think if you had removed the Rhea-Charlotte match, I think the wind wouldn't have been out of our sails by the time the main event hit. And I do think that most people performed at a high level, and I think that it was fantastic, but I do think there was enough stuff in there where you're like, okay, not perfect. But at the same time, is perfect our benchmark? Because if that's the case, what the fuck are you watching?
I think being entertained is supposed to be our benchmark.
Yeah. You think, right? I mean, you wouldn't have guys like Ron Funches and Kevin Gill putting on Getting High Watch Wrestling if the idea was anything but how much entertainment can you get out of this, right? And that's successful.
True.
Think about how shitty we
I would
are.
say 50-50.
They're successful at it.
For me, what was great, right? I really enjoyed Seth and Cesaro. I really enjoyed Alexa Shayna. You know, I really enjoyed KO and Sammy, but, you know, Bianca Bailey had its issues. I mean, yes, I can appreciate Bailey's performance, but was it a great match? Not on the second rewatch. Bianca wasn't there, you know, and the Rhea Charlotte match was such a disappointment. And again, upon rewatch, what Drew was willing to do for us, like, come on. So in that 50-50 aspect, you know, yeah, there's a sour taste in my mouth, unfortunately, but, you know.
Hey, and the sweet isn't as sweet without the sour, baby. What? It's New York shit right there. Just got New York on his ass. He knows it. He feels it. Feels it up in him. Feels it deep.
But you got shit to do after this. Let's get on the Raw.
All right, let's talk about Raw. Raw opened. What? We're starting Raw. I had to do a hard cut. That's how you do it. Raw opened up with MVP, Lashley, and the ladies.
The club ladies.
The club ladies.
They go in clubbing.
Let's talk about it real quick. Do you really feel, because a lot of people have been saying this shit, and I do not agree with it personally.
I haven't seen any of this.
But it's okay for you to believe it if you'd like. Do you really get Godfather Ho vibes out of this entourage, as it were?
So, to your Hell in a Cell point about your lapsed fan, buddy.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, his son is into Otis because of the Main Event movie, is getting his 5-year-old turning 6 into wrestling.
Okay.
So, and he used to watch back in the day, and he texts me as it's on, and we're like live tweeting each other about it, but just text. And he goes, "Yo, is this like the new Godfather shit with Lashley?" I said, "It's kind of whack. I hate it." He goes, "Fucking love it." I'm like,
That's funny.
okay. So, do I get Ho vibes? No. Does my buddy? Yes, he does.
Okay.
And he's here for it.
Yeah,
He's here for it.
I just think that they look like they're going to a club.
Yeah.
Because when I think about it, I'm like, man, Zelina had more stripper heels than these women have. Don't tell me she didn't have stripper heels, because she definitely did. Which is fine.
When
but
you're
no one was-
4'8" and you got to be 5 foot,
but no one was calling her a hoe.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we got to call these
She
women
had like
hoes.
studded leather and stuff. Her gear was quite an interesting take on wrestling gear. But I will say, because MVP did a post where he tagged all of them in it, I did look at their accounts. Just out of curiosity. Almost every one of them is a business owner.
Nice.
They all have their own like fitness line, or one of them's a NFL cheerleader as well as a fitness model. They all have their own companies and their own brands. Some of them have their own logos. Some of them have equipment that they sell. Like some of them have food plans. Like they all are successful business women who, quite frankly, don't need the WWE money to be successful. They already have plenty of money on their own. They're doing this because they like it. But at the end of the day, I looked at that and I thought, oh, this is way different, because the Godfather's hoes were interchangeable.
From the local strip club.
And we're from the local strip clubs.
Yeah.
This is way different. This is a very specific crew of super successful women who clearly want to be around successful men. This feels like the club environment where it's like, oh, that's a good-looking, successful man. I want to be around him. The same as good-looking, successful men being like, oh, that's a good-looking, successful woman. I want to be around her and her friends.
And they look like they're all just having fun.
Yeah. I think it's absolutely demeaning to diminish who these women are outside of the ring as well, and to diminish the perspective here of, here's a bunch of good-looking, successful people together. And yeah, do men like to be around more women than men? Yeah. Is that a little bit skeezy on the bottom side of things? Yeah, maybe. But to be honest, obviously, even when I was single, if I was at a bar and could sit next to a really good-looking woman and talk to her all night long, it didn't matter if I went home with her or not. Matter of fact, times I just definitely didn't want to. But spending time with good-looking people, talking to them, just feels good. It makes you feel better. Like, I don't see how this is
Thanks,
has
man.
to be a Godfather Ho thing. You know what I mean?
I do now. So I appreciate your compliments.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to get convinced to ask you back.
No, I hear you, and honestly, by calling them the new Godfather hoes, it's, of course, I agree with that sentiment, but it's also, again, that, not allowing WWE to tell us stories. Like, did they even? Because I didn't give them a chance. Honestly, my first opinion was, Lashley's sisters look a lot different now, like, and he's got 5 instead of 3. But no, I like. Not allowing them to tell us the story is why they're called hoes, and that's a problem in itself. But yes, demeaning them, of course, is even worse. But yeah, I mean, to not allow WWE to tell us the stories, like, there's your problem, because I had no clue who they were.
Yeah. No, if MVP didn't tag him and I wasn't curious, I wouldn't have known that either. To be honest,
Right.
it's not like they presented it, but at the end of the day, I thought that was fascinating. I was like, this is actually really interesting to see all their profiles and stuff, because it's like they're super successful. They don't have to do this. Like,
I didn't know all of that. I was just going based off their looks. I'm like, oh, they look like they're just any women getting ready on a Saturday night, going out with their girls.
Yeah. One of them's like over 40 and a mom, and she's like the most fit one there. The one who's like super jacked with the arms with the bob hair. She's like 40 plus and has like a kid or two, and she's like the most successful person there. I was like, God, she's fucking jacked too. She looks like she could kick a hole through someone's chest.
Nice.
So, but I digress. I just want to know what your thought on that was, because I've seen a lot of people just completely diminish them. And I just thought that was unfair and unnecessary. And I thought we could probably talk about it, at least shed a light on the fact that, hey, there's a really specific group of successful women they've involved in the storyline to up the status of Bobby, and not the other way around.
Yeah, they're all winners.
Yeah. They want to be around Bobby, and that elevates Bobby. It's not that Bobby has hoes he wants to be around because he can degrade them. That is not what's happening. So, let's see. But the New Day does come out, and they are here to toast as well, and they bring out a bunch of slices of toast, and they start flinging them at him, and I liked it. I shouldn't have, but I did. And then Xavier Woods cut a mean-ass promo on MVP and even shut him the fuck up a couple times. Kofi challenges Bobby Lashley to a match at Money in the Bank.
I love their back and forth so much.
It was so good, man. Bobby accepts, and he says, but I accept only because I can beat the shit out of Woods. And Woods says, you ain't even got the wood yet, but you bouts to. And I don't know. I just thought it was a really good opening segment between all of them. And I thought also, just from a general representation standpoint, how cool is it for all of them to be involved in a main storyline like that? And just in general, because I'm sure they're all friends in the back. It's got to be like, this is fucking dope. Bishop, what'd you think of all this?
My first thought is that they're really fast at making toast. Because MVP, from the time he said that we're having a toast, they made a lot of toast and came out. So
much toast.
Shouts to them for
Biggest
being
toaster.
good for making toast. Yeah. So there's no way that they put butter on it though, which,
Dry toast.
fair, but timing, I get all that. So that was my first thought. Second thought was
That toast could have used John Morrison to add a little bit of drip to make that toast a little more moist, right?
No.
well, I don't like
no.
soggy toast, so
All right.
you got to be careful because he's the moistest C superstar.
Yes. The
All
moistest.
right.
These
I'm
are
out.
his words. These are his words.
what'd I
No,
say?
I thought it started off rough because it's not Lashley's thing. If you give him enough time, he's gonna flub a line, right? And it got, it got a little bit there, but they work so well together. From their promos in the back for the last couple weeks to this segment in itself, they vibe very, very well together.
Yes.
And I was so interested to see what Woods could do against Lashley later in the night. I mean, it just, boom, I was ready. Let's go,
Yes. You know what I appreciated about this a lot? The amount of respect you could tell was between all the people involved. When Bobby flubbed a line, Woods didn't go, "Did you just say?"
Yeah.
Right? You know what it reminded me of? How much of a dick Drew McIntyre is on the mic. Because Drew would have been like, "Oh, I'd have eaten him alive. I'd have fucking given him shit for it." Why? Did it help serve the story? Do you look like a better person?
But also MVP was supposed to be the great mouthpiece that he is.
Yeah.
You know, so and Bobby doesn't need to be the great speaker.
No, he just needs to say a few lines here and there, and if he flubs him a little bit, because he's emotional and he's invested, and that's totally fine. But
Yeah,
Drew
and then
would have tried to
MVP
drag him
righted
in
the
the mud.
course.
Yep,
When
exactly.
MVP jumped in on when Lashley was talking to write the course that quick, it all worked out.
Yes, but that's what I mean. Like, to me, that's what elevates a storyteller like Woods versus why I keep saying Drew's a heel, because Drew would have taken that opportunity to take pot shots at Bobby Lashley and try to drag him to make himself look better, which makes himself just look like a bigger dick. Where Woods let him have his piece and say it, but then also was all like, Pete, please let me finish, you know? Where Drew would have just talked over MVP for a long time and said, I swear to God, you say one more thing, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And you're like, why do you have to elicit explicit violence over a fucking limping old vet?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's how Drew's character is. And matter of fact, he tried to beat the shit out of MVP in Hell in a Cell. And I was like, that's heel shit.
Yeah.
Beating up a manager who's limping and shit. Like, and that's what I mean. That's what I liked about this so much, is that you had baby faces being baby faces and heels being heels. And by the end of the night, I was like, oh, fuck Bobby Lashley, dude. But in every promo between Bobby and Drew, I was like, I don't know, man. I'm behind Bobby on this one, you know?
Yeah, it all makes sense with them.
Yeah.
Like, because everyone knows what their character is, it feels like.
Yeah. What do you think, Bishop?
You're right. No, I mean, I didn't think of it that way, as reestablishing the babyface and the heel, because it was just that natural. So wanting to see, you know, again, like I said, I was so looking forward to Woods having the match at the end of the night, because, I mean, I'll stand up for Woods for the last 3 years. When he gets his time to wrestle, he doesn't let you down. He's had phenomenal matches as of late, especially Raw as well.
He might actually be the most underrated wrestler on the roster. A lot of people want to talk about underutilized in terms of underappreciated, but I think Xavier Woods is so good and goes unnoticed as being so good, he might actually be the most underappreciated.
It's very possible. That's what I like about what they've done the last couple of weeks with the New Day, is even though they do make an entrance together every once in a while, the Woods and Kofi, they have their connection, but when they go to wrestle, it's not about who's outside the ring like it used to be. It's about who's inside the ring solely. And I think
well,
they do
he's
a
been using
fantastic
his
job of
trombone
that.
and shit.
Not in the way that they used to. It just, I don't know, it just feels different to me.
That's true.
But I might be
give you
searching for something. So, I mean, it could be
I'll
fair.
give you that. I'll give you that for sure. But I just like it. I loved it, man. And yeah, I think we had a real baby face and a real heel. By the end of it, I was like, fuck Bobby Lashley, dude. That dude's a dick. But every single interaction between Bobby and Drew, I was like, I don't know, I'm leaning Bobby. You know what I mean? This one, there was no doubt in my mind. By the end of it, I was like, Xavier Woods needs to fuck him up and prove a point. And then you're like, all right, well, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
No, it's all good.
Let's see. We did have an opening match with Omos on the outside. Viking Raiders comes out at some point, but we had Ricochet versus AJ. Ricochet and AJ have such amazing chemistry in the ring. I miss every match they had as they were doing the Universal title feud. And I do think that Ricochet's on a different level right now. I think he's really found his own. He's really found a voice. I really like this kind of street clothes Ricochet for right now as we transition away from half shorts Ricochet.
Yeah.
And the promo that they filmed, they had playing on his way out, I thought was so good. Like, Ricochet's really, I think the next 2 years or so, we're going to see a lot more out of Ricochet.
Yeah, he's become the grittier version, and that's cool, because that same buddy talking about the Lashley's ladies, he's like, yo, why is Ricochet so dope, but I don't like him? I'm like, oh, he just doesn't have a character to connect with yet. But I think this is the impetus of that. Because, I mean, he can do everything and anything. And there's always missing a little bit of connection, like the why should I care? And this grittiness from him, I think is going to speak a lot. So I agree with you. Going forward, we really might see the best version of Ricochet as an all-encompassing as they say in WWE, sports entertainer.
Yeah. Dude, and I think a lot of that comes from him. Like, I think that, like, I'll say it. I'll shit on him a little bit. I think that the problem with guys like EC3 is they go into a company and go, how dare you not use me? You're in the wrong. Don't you know how good I am? I'm not even going to try anymore because you guys aren't using me. Where I think a guy like a Ricochet or even a Mojo goes, they're not using me. I got to be working harder. I need to put more effort in. I've got to prove to them that I'm better than they think. And I think that that's what makes guys like Ricochet end up shining at the end. People like Bailey really shine later on because they are willing to put in the work to prove their value, their worth. It's why I think we're seeing Apollo where he is now. But I think it's why you see guys like EC3 get cut and go like, well, if your program doesn't have time for me, your program's fucked. No, maybe you weren't willing to work for it. And I think that what's so cool about Ricochet is to see him get to this point where he started to flounder clearly because they gave him a push. They tried. They gave him the U.S. title, and his promos just weren't there. They gave him what more of a perfect feud can you ask for than being paired up with AJ Styles?
Yep.
Like, how much more on a platter do you need it? And if you're struggling...
that was a feud I forgot about.
Oh, I loved it. But I could tell that there was a miss. Remember when they slapped each other back and forth?
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I fully agree, and I would love to see a point where Ricochet's so undeniable. Oh, and speaking of our favorite parts of the internet, the wrestling journalist cocksuckers, they reported a long time ago that Ricochet was going to get cut. Or, sorry. Well, what's allowed? I mean, all right. Say if that's what they're into.
Take it in. No. All right. Take it easy on the next one.
All right. No, I have such disdain for them, and I apologize for the comment. The people who call themselves journalists reported that Ricochet wanted out of his contract, or he was going to get released, and all this shit. And to your point, if they heard anything, and let's say they heard that there's a disgruntledness between Ricochet and WWE, which I could understand whether it came from one side or the next, right? Whether it was Ricochet disgruntled of not being on TV or WWE being disgruntled that there's no connection, because both would be correct.
Yes.
To your point, the value in any employee across the board is how hard are you willing to work at your job to make you an asset to the company.
Yes.
And if this is Ricochet's opportunity to prove he deserves what he wants out of WWE, and also WWE should want to keep him there, then here we go. And I tell you what, not only was I happy that he got the win because of how this character is going, I then immediately go, oh shit, we have Ricochet in a ladder match.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep. 100%. I mean, the idea of Ricochet being in this match at all is fucking phenomenal. No pun intended towards AJ. I apologize. But the other thing I've noticed, I mean, people don't take into account certain things. Like, they don't listen to all the words, right? And I mean that in that they'll hear what someone's saying, but they're not listening to what they're saying. And Ricochet said in one of his interviews somewhere that he had done the indies for a long time. He was very successful. He goes, he was so excited to get to WWE because he wanted to know if he truly had what it takes to make it on the largest platform, to be a WWE superstar. There's a lot of guys, and no knock on them at all, and I don't mean this as a dig whatsoever, but there's guys like Matt Cardona and Brian Myers who are happy to be there. They still work incredibly hard. Don't get me wrong, that always ready thing, I believe in. I don't think Cardona was ever not ready to be on TV.
Yeah.
But there was also a big part of him that was just so happy to be getting a paycheck with the WWE logo on it. And I get that and respect it, and I'd be the same way probably. But there's guys like Ricochet who go, I've already made it on the independent circuit. I don't think Ricochet has anything to prove on the indies. I mean, Lucha Underground was built around him. They said, well, we have him. I guess let's make a whole show now. You know what I mean? I don't think that a guy like Ricochet who's saying things like that would ask for a release to go back to where he was already successful. I think he likes the challenge. I think he wants to put forth that effort. If I'm not good enough now, why would taking a step backwards make me better later, right? Oh, maybe if I get to a place where I'm more comfortable and where I'm already successful, then maybe I got a little bit of space to breathe. Maybe. Or maybe you just need that pressure of being like, I'm not good at this whole thing. And I was a master at it on the other side of things. So I don't see why people would just say, oh, clearly he's unhappy with his booking, which he probably wasn't happy with his booking. But there's some people who are unhappy with their booking and look within, and there's other people who go, well, that's their fault. I'm pretty good, you know? So I don't know. Let's see. Jeremy does say Ricochet is my dark horse to win Money in the Bank. If WWE wants a shock winner for Money in the Bank, I think it should be Ricochet. I don't disagree at all. I want to see how the whole thing maps out. We'll talk about it. This was a match for the entry of Money in the Bank. And like you said, I was really happy when Ricochet won. I think he's doing really good stuff. And I'm really impressed by him. I don't know yet. I think it's a little early for me to call who I think is going to win Money in the Bank on stuff. Part of me thinks it could be like a Brock or a Seth. I think they could go real big and not use it to launch that next person. I will say I do agree with the concept that I love a star to be made via Money in the Bank, like a Carmella or an Edge or a Daniel Bryan or a Punk. Those surprises of just not main event types actually getting that main event shot. I love those moments, but part of me feels like this Money in the Bank being the first one in front of fans, they might go bigger than we think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I love it. I love Ricochet. Let's see. Let's keep going. I feel like there's a backstage segment I'm missing. So I think right before this match, because the next match I have listed here is Asuka and Naomi against Eva Marie and Doudrop. They do have a whole moment in the back where Eva Marie is introducing her new protege. And she says, they go, oh, what's your name? And she keeps going, Piper. She's mouthing Piper and pointing herself, I'm Piper.
Oh, did you see that?
Yeah. Did you not see that?
No, all of wrestling Twitter chose not to see that. More mute button.
Yeah, no, it was on the TV. I watch what's on TV.
Fucking muted like crazy last night because people were like, oh, what the fuck? They changed your name? Watch the fucking story. So go ahead.
Yeah. She starts to go, oh, I'm, and right as she's going to get the Piper out, because that's how everyone says Piper. Piper. As she starts to get the P out of her mouth, which is common. What? As she starts to get the pee out of her mouth, Eva Marie says, hold it right there, and says, her name is a Doudrop. Even Corey Graves said, this is a new lease on life for her. It's like a convent where they change your name so you can have a whole new identity. They fucking highlighted the fact that this is not her fucking name. And people are losing it. How dare they? Yep. Guess who just got worked?
He said commune, not convent, because that's where nuns go. But the commune, I was thinking full on, Corey Graves is into like fucking, don't drink the Kool-Aid shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I'm going to be honest. There's not a big difference between the two. Commune and convent are pretty close to the same.
Yes. That's another conversation.
Are you going to tell me that every nun's first name is sister?
I don't know, ref.
Dick. But yeah, everyone was all like, Doudrop. I'm all like, guess who got worked? All of you. And I don't take pride in not getting worked. I actually don't like it when I don't get worked because I enjoy getting worked. And eating crow. It's my two favorite things. But yeah, this was the whole thing. She kept going, my name's Piper. I'm Piper. It's my name. They have the match. The match was actually pretty solid. I do think... I think it could have been better. I do think that Doudrop needs more time in the ring. I was surprised with how good Piper Niven has been in NXT UK. She seemed a little bit slow in this one. I liked how tough she looked, how much of a brick wall she looked. But there was also a number of like slowly choreographed things happening that I wasn't a huge fan of and thought, okay, she's still got a little bit of indie wrestling on her. and I'd like to see her tighten it up. But I do think that there's time for that. So Eva Marie tags out, rolls away, is not available, and then at some point Eva Marie tags in because she wants to get the pin. She can't get the pin because she doesn't know what moves to use, so she goes to try and tag in Dewdrop, who drops off of the apron and then says, "Fuck y'all, bitches," and walks out. And Eva Marie goes, "How could you?" And everyone goes, "Boo, Eva Marie." And I was like, yeah, they did it. They nailed this one. I like the whole segment overall. I think people who are mad about Dewdrop are so right to be worked so well.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
I came on here, I think it was episode 1, and said, I love everything about the Eva Marie promos.
Yeah.
She is telling you for days she's a baby face. She looks incredible. The workout videos are phenomenal. The in-ring work looks nice and tight. These promos are amazing. She is showing you how babyface she is. Everybody hates on her. Everybody hates on her. Everybody hates. Oh, when she comes back, she's just going to get this. When she comes back, she's just going to get that. She finally comes back. Has a protege to win the match for her. Instant heel. Instant heel. Wait, the protege doesn't have a name? We know it's Piper Niven. We know it's Piper Niven.
We're smarter than
What
that.
the fuck's going on? Oh, 1 week later. Her name is, and Piper wants to say Piper. Twitter's saying Piper. No, it's Dewdrop. Okay. You're going to call me Dewdrop. All right. They go out and have the match. Was the match about the match?
No,
Was the match about
not at all.
qualifying for Hell in a Cell? Or not Hell in a Cell, for TLC or whatever the fuck it is, Money in the Bank? No.
Money in the Bank in the Cell? Yeah.
Money in the Bank in a cell with tables and chairs. No,
Yeah.
It's not what it was about. It was about the continuation of this Eva Marie character who continues to be the best heel you have on Raw.
Yeah. She's phenomenal.
And how
And what makes her a better heel than trying to circumvent someone's name and then their ability to wrestle in the ring and then get fucked over? Now she has egg on her face and you're laughing at the person you're supposed to laugh at while cheering for the person you didn't know was going to be here.
Yep.
It's fucking perfect.
And what did Piper do? Drop off the apron. Yep.
I mean, I'm watching the whole match, and I put up a poll last night. And I said, wrestling Twitter is
always
very
doing that.
opinionated tonight. Complaining back on 100. So here's a question, straight up. Would you rather Charlotte versus Rhea, because nobody wanted that to happen again, right? Another Charlotte versus Rhea match
Yep.
for TLC. Or sorry, for Money in the Bank, because that got announced, spoiler alert. Or Eva Marie at Money in the Bank. 9 votes for Charlotte versus Rhea, 6 votes for Eva Marie at Money in the Bank. Guess what? This poll was put up before Eva Marie lost. You weren't even getting it, but everyone thought it was going to happen because Eva Marie's back and they're going to give her everything. Just fucking watch. The story was about the girl who's coming in to fuck people over got fucked over. And watch. I could almost guarantee you heard it here first, episode 1. Guess what Dewdrop's name is going to be on Monday? Piper.
I don't know. It might be Vuvrop.
see, and what did I say last week? I was just super excited to see more Naomi and Piper.
Yep.
There you go.
And we got it. And it's exactly what I wanted.
Yep. 100%.
Then I had someone on Twitter trolling me saying, oh, well, they changed it because of Twitter. No, they didn't. You didn't let them tell you a story. Shut up. They don't change anything else you want them to change.
Yeah.
Let them tell you the story.
The amount of people who go, the booking in this one. Okay. You book a lot? Okay.
Yeah, Eva Marie was so obnoxiously shitty that I was just laughing like, oh,
She's so good.
this is great.
I remember avidly not liking Eva Marie in her last iteration and just being like, this is terrible. And I love this evil Eva Marie.
And I am such a new viewer that I have never seen old Eva Marie. So to me, she's just another new character.
And what's your thought?
I mean, she's playing it real well. I'm like the most, I think, casual viewer that we have here on the show, because I didn't grow up with wrestling, and I just thought, okay, all right, looking at her promos, let's see what's gonna happen, and then just her, I love Piper, followed her on NXT UK, so just knowing how good she is and watching Eva Marie, I thought she was speaking well, which I like. I like when people can, deliver their lines well. And from what I saw, I just couldn't help but laugh because she's being such a jerk that I loved it.
Bitch.
Ta-da!
I was like, oh yeah, I want to smack this chick. She's such a bitch.
They told you the story, and it's evident on what's happening.
Yeah, she executed well.
Yep. Let's see. I did notice that we skipped over a bit. There was a promo that involved Rhea and Charlotte. I'm going to be honest with you. I left to take a shit during that promo and had no intention of finding it or replaying it, and have done so. So
I had to watch it and tell him what happened.
Yeah. So let's let the producer cover this one. Producer, how'd that one go?
It was funny because I predicted it before it even happened.
Okay.
Because I thought that they're just gonna do a rematch, and it's pretty much what happened. I mean, it just was uninterested the whole time. I was just yelling at the TV like, "Come on, what the hell?"
Mm-hmm. Bishop, what'd you think of this promo? Rhea and Charlotte, apparently some sort of rematch. I don't know.
No, I think I mentally took a shit while it was happening because, I mean, the Hell in a Cell match was such a disappointment. You know what? No, I tell you, honestly, again, this was like a very AEW thing, is to have a shitty match and then blame the person who won. Because remember, they blamed it on Rhea because she forced a disqualification at Hell in a Cell. So Rhea used the rules to get out of another match with Charlotte. And Rhea even said it, laid it right out there for you, and goes, oh, the rules that don't apply to Charlotte? Like, if anyone remembers Charlotte's first title run from Divas into Women's, guess who was a factor in all the fucking wins? Ric Flair. Like, but hey, every time he cheated to win for her, that wasn't a disqualification or an automatic rematch for someone. So yeah, I mean, they're laying it on to whatever's supposed to build Charlotte as a heel, whatever you want to call it. But I'm over it. I'm over it. It doesn't make sense, and I don't want to see Charlotte lose for the sake of losing. I want to see good matches, and they're not happening.
Yeah, I was much more excited to see Eva Marie and just what's going on with her than I was this promo.
Yeah. So let's pull back a little bit. Let's get objective and not talk about what we like about it or don't, because this is I'm just not interested. But the theory I've been seeing that people are talking about is during the Hell in a Cell match when Rhea does that thing, which, P.S., yes, using the top of the table as a weapon to intentionally strike someone is a disqualifying moment, much the same as grabbing the chairs and intentionally hitting someone with the chairs is, but ramming someone into the chairs is not. If the table remains idle while you slam someone into it from above, i.e. a powerbomb into the table, it may not be as disqualifying as pulling something off of the table and hitting someone with it. It turns an inanimate object into a foreign object. That's the argument about why it's a DQ from a rules perspective. However, it's very confusing for people to see a table be pulled apart and recognize the parts as being separate. It would have been more clear to people if she had just grabbed a fucking chair and done the same thing. That argument aside, because I agree, she should have just grabbed a chair. It would have been a lot less confusing for people, because I think that the rules are what they are, but sometimes it's visually confusing. At the end of the match, Charlotte was screaming, "You're learning! You're learning. And Rhea said something like, I just did what you would do. Do you think and do you care if we get into a full-on storyline where Rhea Ripley is some sort of protege of Charlotte Flair?
No, it diminishes the stature and technical ability of what Rhea is able to accomplish. We don't need it. We don't need it. Rhea bell to bell is capable of having phenomenal matches, and we can get that. And again, they presented it before the Charlotte match at WrestleMania. The progression of Rhea's character from Mae Young Classic 1 to Mae Young Classic 2 to NXT UK Women's Champion to NXT Women's Champion to the WrestleMania moment, in how she structured her character and wrestling career before that moment. And to your point, since that moment, it's been a regression. So if they allow Rhea to be Rhea, there is nothing Charlotte can do to highlight who Rhea is as a performer. She did that on her own beforehand, sans dancing partners. But she had an ability to change who she was, because nobody from WWE touched her from Mae Young Classic 1 to Mae Young Classic 2. That wasn't an internal thing. She didn't sign back on and they go, oh, turn into this rock star character. No, at the age of 22, she was like, look, I'm going to do this and become the fucking GOAT. Now she gets saddled with who they think the GOAT is, and it turns into this shit. So no, I don't think it does anything for her. She had the ability to become something special on her own.
I think they need to crank it up. I think they need to enforce that Charlotte thinks she's tootling Rhea. And I think Rhea needs to bite back with, I don't need you for this to work at all. Because otherwise, if it's any other iteration, I think, like you said, it diminishes Rhea and all of her star potential. I think Rhea needs to stand up and say, I'm better without you. I'm just outdoing you at your own game, and the only way you can save face is trying to take credit for my success. I think that's the only way you get out of it and save both sides. What's that?
You have to create that scenario. Like, instead of just having Rhea have matches, you have to create the scenario, and I don't think you need to do that. But I've been invested from Rhea since the Mae Young Classic, and to the point of what WWE does, according to them, this was Rhea's, the Raw before WrestleMania, or the one before that, 2 weeks out of WrestleMania, was supposedly her first Raw ever. You know, even though she challenged Charlotte at Raw the year prior, I guess this is their revisionist history. So
she didn't have
if they're saying that this is how we package them, I get it. I don't think it's necessary, and I find it a very, very big uphill climb. I'll go with it and see if they can hook me, but I tell you that I can't. It's not there for me yet.
Yeah, I'm far away from being hooked. Just in Time in the chat does say, consider a good thing you never saw the old Eva Marie producer lady, to which she wooed. And then Just in Time is actually back now. I think he feels better that we're not attacking him now. Here's the deal. When I meet Justin Time in real life, he's going to give me one good solid punch to the stomach, and I'll be like, that's fair. That's even. We're good. And he does say the
Just
only
keep
thing
booking
I
him
see...
on the show.
Yeah, I'll just keep putting him on the show, keep putting him over, and he'll at least give me a stiff one to the chest. And I'll be like, totally fine, totally fair. Nobody call it. It's fine. You know what I mean? I'll do one of those. I had it coming. You know, I'll end up with one of those Sheamus face masks. It'll be a whole thing. He says, the only thing I see is a forced narrative from WWE wanting us to see Charlotte as a babyface like they do, which is true in that for some reason... they love Charlotte so much. They think that the entire audience views her as a baby face. And I think even people who love Charlotte don't view her that way. They view her as an evil entity they can get behind, which is a real thing.
Yeah, but people will get behind whoever they want, not necessarily just baby faces. You know? So why does it have to be babyface?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we're behind Bayley, right? Because Bayley is doing some undeniable work.
Yeah, we don't care where she goes. So
have Charlotte do the undeniable work. Now, look, if Bayley loses to Bianca, like she did at WrestleMania Backlash, right? With the creative hair and all that stuff, like we still look like, well, heel Bailey lost here. Your champion goes on. We had a great match. That's it. So if Bailey's the babyface, we're like, oh, she got fucked over by the heel champion. I want to see her win again. Like, that's actions and emotions put together in a way we move forward and not get stale. Where's the actions and emotions regardless of character? It's not there. And then, of course, you see the phantom kicks that happen at Hell in a Cell. And it's like, you're giving me more reasons not to give a shit.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just wanted to scope out a little bit because I've seen that conversation happen of, oh, they're clearly going this way and what a great way to go. Charlotte's the best. Of course, she can give the old toodle-doos to the old Rheas. And I was like, I'd prefer the defiant Rhea to the Charlotte tutelage, as it were.
And I'd like it if we couldn't predict what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. No, I love the roller coaster of it all, to be honest with you. As much as I don't go on roller coasters, as we talked about earlier in the episode. Remember that earlier, Bishop?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to eat the funnel cake. Well established. There was a little vignette here, or not vignette, but a little video package here with Natty Tamina and Mandy and Dana Brooke. I like this rivalry, dude. I do. I just like it. I think it's 4 top athletes who are not all given the chance to do things to highlight themselves. And I love the idea we have a rivalry going on with 4 tremendous athletes who never seem to get the time that I think they deserve, and they're getting a little bit of a highlight here. I don't know where it goes. I don't know if the Sexy Muscle Friends end up with the titles or not, but I feel like it's really win-win, and I feel like it gives them all the chance, like you keep saying, time on the TVs.
Yep.
I like it. I like it a lot. And I think that they're all doing better segment after segment after segment. It's never worse than the one before, and I love that.
Yeah, and it's done in doses too, right? They're not giving you long, drawn out, fully in your face. It's done in a little dose here, a little dose there, a little dose here, a little dose there. And seeing that natural progression of what could be, I think is it's serving them well. It's serving them well.
Yeah. I think it's great. And Mandy Rose with the coffee, talking shop, getting real New York.
I just love all these strong women. Just, having a good story together. I'm into it.
That's a good point. When you really scope out a little bit and just look at the women on Raw, Natty, Tamina, Mandy, Dana.
So strong.
Even the women who are with Bobby Lashley look like they could fucking bench press most of us. There's a lot of strong women on this show, and we're going to get to some of them in just a bit as well. I mean, you talk about Alexa, Nikki, who were they in a match with? Shayna, Nia, a lot of strong women, either physically or otherwise. But this does lead into a match. We had another qualifying match of Randy Orton versus John Drip Morrison.
And oh my God, this was a great match with Morrison. I was super surprised, only because I'm always so clouded by the goofy Miz, interrupting everything. So seeing his
abs.
No, seeing his crazy moves, I feel like I never really get to
Hips.
appreciate it.
Talking about his abs and his hips. I gotcha. So the finish of the match, which her favorite part is always the finish. He goes to do his finishing maneuver, the Starship Flipperoonies. I forget what it's called. Do you remember what it's called?
Starship Pain?
Starship Pain. And the dude fucking pauses. He lifts himself up just a bit, slowly lifts into it, and then fucking drops down into the springboard of it. And when we're watching it, she was like, whoa. Did the Apple TV just freeze? And I was like, It fucking did not. That was insane.
Thought it was definitely our feed, because I'm like, the only people who can do stuff like that are like well-experienced strippers who do like performance, like win competitions and shit. Like
with
that
abs
is
like
insane.
With abs like Morrison's, for sure.
No, that's not something you just pick up at the gym. Like that's
Watch
crazy.
gymnastics in the Olympics. That's straight pommel horse shit right there.
It's crazy.
I do. Yo, when I was in Tampa on a business trip, we were at some like restaurant bar by the hotel just eating, and they had the gymnastics competition going on. It wasn't Olympics, but it was like the college ones or whatever. And I was just like jaw dropped watching all this stuff. Yeah. The waitress comes over and she goes, "Oh, are you watching the thing?" I was like, I am mesmerized by gymnastics. Yeah. This is the most incredible thing. And then she's all like, "Oh, I was a gymnast, so I think this is incredible." So she starts telling me the history of some of this stuff and some of the moves. I'm just all like all of it was just insane to me. Yeah. And I do think that Morrison's on that level.
Oh, every Olympics I get hooked by the gymnastics. It's just incredible athleticism. It's insane what they're able to do.
And the way that Morrison's able to use gymnastics in a believable sense of wrestling is what makes him magic.
Can we see more of that?
More of Morrison.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's the prince of parkour, right? So he does these, hand plant body movements, and that's part of it, I guess.
But they didn't even make a GIF out of it. WWE didn't even post it. Because I was trying to find it. I thought it was just so crazy amazing. I don't see that, I guess, on the regular mainstream shows we watch. And I was super surprised that they didn't even post it.
No, there's like, I guess
that was ended. Another thing that got me excited at the end of this match. I was like, oh shit, Morrison won. Oh shit, Morrison in another ladder match. Oh, this one with Ricochet. I was like, fucking right. This thing is loading up.
Yeah, the second was like
and I started thinking,
Morrison,
who on SmackDown can we add to this to make it look fucking crazy? And then I didn't come up with anyone. I didn't think too hard. Yeah, I just kept going.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say this. Miz needs to take time off. There is nothing Miz can do that keeps his presence on TV necessary while he's healing. Here's the deal with Miz. He's the Miz. And this is a positive thing I'm about to say. He's the fucking Miz. I don't give a shit if I see him now or 6 months from now. His music hits and he comes out. Oh shit, that's the Miz. Yep. He's got the history. He's got the pedigree. He's made. Yep. So I get where they say like, hey, time off TV's bad. How quickly we forget. Yes, you're right. If Miz was off TV for 6 or 7 months, I'd forget about the Miz. But the second I hear, awesome, I came to play. There's not 1 second of me.
I closed my eyes for a second, but I didn't. But I did.
Yeah, and you almost saw those sparklers, right?
Yeah,
those sparklers dribbling down at that point.
Match one time.
Yeah, if you were Kingston, you'd have passed out. You would have visioned sparkles. But there's no part of me that, even as much as I am not a massive Miz fan, if I haven't seen Miz in 7 months and I hear that music hit and I'm in the crowd, I'm losing my shit. I just am. Sorry, I am. So there's no need for him here. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that in that you are pulling away from Morrison's sense. And Morrison needs his identity right now to really become highlighted. And right now he is the second man to Miz. And that's only because Miz keeps coming out. Miz, please go home. Go home because
most of the Johnny Drip stuff has happened without the Miz. And then they come out to the ring and they do the whole thing and it's goofy again. And Morrison's goofy by himself. We don't need Miz to enhance that. But part of what gets you invested, at least me, part of what gets me invested, I should say, is did the character bring me there? Okay, did the match keep me there? And Morrison he's more than fucking capable of the match keeping you there.
Yes.
So if this character is like, okay, goofy, it's not too overplayed. Okay, now it's starting to get overplayed, but fuck is he having good matches. It's the Matt Riddle complex. I can't stand Riddle backstage, but every time he's in the ring, I'm like, God damn it, this guy can go. And Morrison's the same way. But in Riddle's matches, they don't interject the goofy in there. He's not hopping on a scooter during the match. Where John Morrison is using the dripstick or Miz is using it during the match. And I'm like, you're diminishing what Morrison could be.
Yeah, you're detracting, not adding.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%. Miz needs to go home for the betterment of both parties because Morrison on his own will be forced to fly, and he will. There's no doubt in my mind. that he won't fucking soar without the Miz. And the Miz, when he comes back, is still the goddamn A-lister Miz. As much as I hate him, he's still the fucking A-lister, man.
And I don't actually. I was a Miz fan before Morrison came back, and I gotta say, this has even detracted from me being a Miz fan.
Ooh.
So that's not good. You know, I used to actually be excited. I used to laugh at him while Marsh over here was really pissed. You know, but now I'm just annoyed. And I was really, really hoping that putting them together for so long was going to build to a rivalry. I would have been into that, you know, but it hasn't. And I'm just, now every time I see either of them, I'm just really, really just not interested.
Yeah. But I do agree, ultimately, we have John Morrison dripping all over Ricochet in a ladder match for Money in the Bank. What's is that not? He's moist.
That could have been worded differently.
I don't think he could have. Bishop, you still with me?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I saw a lot of people shitting on this. People shit on stuff, dude, for no reason. It's like, how much shit do you have within you to release it upon the world? But we had Alexa and Nikki Cross in a tag team against Shayna Baszler versus Nia Jax. And the thing that they were saying was, like, I saw a lot of people being like, what are all these random matches? First off, and I'm gonna go right back to the chat here in a second. All these random matches. None of these matches have storylines behind them, i.e. AJ Ricochet, who have a history anyways, i.e. Morrison, Randy Orton, i.e. Nikki, Alexa, Shayna, Nia. These matches have no story. What's the fucking point? It's all random. Jeremy in the chat says, I am mostly surprised that it was the first time Morrison and Orton had a one-on-one. 100%. Also, this is tournament-style wrestling. To get into a qualifier, this is a qualifier for a match. Like, of course it doesn't need a story.
Potentially get a title shot.
To get it, yeah. What the fuck do you mean it doesn't have a story? And to be honest, sidebar of I apologize in advance, all AEW is a selection of stories with no story behind them, as randomized as possible, to make sure they don't have rematches, because they're so afraid of having the stigma of having too many rematches that we, at this point, have had all of 2 rematches in the entire history of AEW, which is a problem because storylines need multiple matches. So that's why their storylines have such a fucking disconnect with so many people outside of the fanboys. However,
well, they also control the they also control the narrative over there. I remember Cody Rhodes going on Busted Open going, "Oh, we're so proud to never have a DQ finish in the history of AEW." And I'm like, yes, but wait, they come out and fuck up every single match just because they don't connect with the person and cause a DQ? You still have a clusterfuck of a fucking match. So don't, like, you wear it as a badge of honor, and then, of course, AEW, you know, Twitter goes crazy like, oh, well, at least they don't fucking DQ match. Well, what about all the interference that happens anyway? Oh, well, they don't touch the wrestler, so it's not a DQ. Go fuck yourself.
But they still touch the wrestlers. But producer had something she wanted to say.
I was going to say, is that why books have chapters?
Books have chapters because stories continue, because the same characters will interact. I'll say, as a side note, the problem with never having a DQ finish is it never establishes the importance of following the rules. So by having no DQ finish, you've never quite established that your rules are not only present but matter. You have no rules until you have a DQ. Without a consequence, there is no crime.
Right.
So you cannot have a heel do dastardly deeds if no one's ever been punished for doing a dastardly thing.
Yeah.
Then all deeds are equal. And when all deeds are created equal, there is no bad or good. That's why there's a problem. That's why there's a disconnect with a lot of people who are not already fan-based. That's not to say they're not a good product. That's not to say that they don't have fans. It is to say it is an issue with those who are not fans who have tried to be and have been pushed away. That all said. What were we talking about to begin with?
Just carry character importance of storytelling with Randy Orton.
People
and
shitting
Morrison.
on the idea of these randomized matches. Well, we have these tournament-based matches without storyline behind them because we want to establish the belief that this is a competitive nature sports-based show in a sense. It's sports entertainment. How do sports happen to begin with? How do we get to the Final Four in the NCAA? By a fucking tournament.
Yeah.
Do you think that ASU and U of A have a storyline in every fucking given match, or do you think that the couple times they happen to touch a year is important because the other times they happen to touch in a year? The storyline isn't that they're having a match; it's that they've only had one match in the year before. You know what I mean? Like, you need to do this. You need to have random matches, and you can't be upset that these matches don't seem to have story around them, but then also regale another company for having no rematches. Look. Sometimes it's randomized because that's how we move things forward. So people were shitting on this. I'll give them this. The women, for whatever reason, were qualifying in tag team matches where the men were qualifying in singles matches.
Yeah.
And I only think that's because they're going to have, obviously, less women's matches than men matches as they lead into the Money in the Bank, but they also have a smaller roster for women's than men's. So maybe you split the difference, do tag matches. I don't know. It's math. But we end up with a promo from Nikki Cross. I want to know what you think, Bishop. We had the intro of Alexa Bliss, who was doing fantastic. Coming out, we had Shayna and Nia come out, but we had a promo from Nikki Cross, ready for action, Super Nikki, as it were. I'm trying to think. I thought she gave herself a little bit of a secondary name, and I'm not seeing it written down here. But we had kind of a superhero-based Nikki Cross. What did you think of this presentation of Nikki?
So I think the one thing a lot of wrestling fans can agree on, it's not the Nikki we want. So that has to get washed off, right? You got to get the perception of you're not getting what you want. Then you got to look into what you're getting. And what I saw, the number one thing I saw is that Nikki is bought in. So if Nikki is bought in, now I have to, let's say, step to the counter and see if I'm going to buy it too. So I'll meet her there.
Yeah.
Was I blown away? Was I fully taken in? No. Am I glad that they're giving her this spotlight? 1,000%. Do I think that, in my opinion, is this needed? No, she was getting victories without a superhero character. What is this going to be? I don't know. Am I okay with the result? Yes. So it's such a work in progress, especially since it was so much at once. It was so over the top at once. But is it a bad thing? I personally don't think so. But if anyone wants to take anything away, you have to start with realizing we all know it's not what you wanted. Now look at what you got. And I think she executed what we got extremely well. And I'm here to see it get good. If it doesn't get good, I think that'll happen quick. So we'll see.
Oh, I was going to say, you say it's not what you wanted. I have been saying for a while now, I just wanted a Nikki with a personality. I didn't need to see the exact same Nikki that we saw in NXT. So for that reason, I was pretty into it. And from what I saw, she looked so comfortable with what she was saying. It almost didn't seem like it was even written. It seemed like, man, this is just her being this character. And, you know, I thought that was just so great to see. I'm like, yes, finally she's comfortable. She's having fun. And so I was willing to give it a chance.
Yeah. Here's how I felt initially. I said, well, it might be a secret identity, but at least she has an identity. It's been a while since we've seen her say or do anything with a definitiveness. This felt definitive. It felt defining. And I was like, this is different. But it's different but the same, right? This felt very Mighty Molly.
Yeah.
Felt very Hurricane Helms. But Hurricane Helms has said time and time again, Hurricane Helms was never a superhero. He was a man who thought he was a superhero. And here we have a Nikki who thinks she is a superhero, and I can lean into that. Does it make any difference?
Embracing her inner superhero.
Yes, because she wants to
Which
inspire,
I think is a
right?
big difference from what Hurricane Helms did.
Yeah, I think there's a difference.
Okay.
Does it make a difference to you and your ingestion of this character? Because I've seen a lot of people fucking walking backwards and tripping over themselves as they discover that this was all Nikki's idea.
Oh, I've also seen where people say, "Oh, well, I don't care if it's her idea. It's still not great."
Which is also fine. However, all right, before I go into that, Bishop, does it change anything at all to know that this was her idea? So the concept artist actually released the drawing of Nikki and said, let me see, I have it right in front of me. It said, "I'm so glad I can talk about this now. I helped Nikki pitch this idea a few months back. I'm so happy to see it brought to life." So months ago, she's been trying to push for this, which might be the reason that we've had the music change so long ago and be like, what's this about, right? Her husband Damo said first concept and took a little screenshot of it right before it, because I hear you're already itching to say something. The other thing was that her husband tweeted it out and said she had an idea and saw it brought to life. Very excited to see what's next. Go Nikki. A lot of people at that point started moonwalking, saying, well, it's not that bad of an idea. Does it change anything to know that this came from Nikki versus came from a higher up, as it were?
So yeah, I find that actually pretty cool. I didn't know that. Again, going into it, I said it's not what I wanted. Because I love Crazy Nikki. I think Crazy Nikki is fucking phenomenal. But I also always felt like, to your guys' point and even hers, that I felt like Crazy Nikki was her. Like, not her own personality, but a version of who she was. So if this is going to be her heart in it going forward, I don't think she'll miss. I think she is that great of a performer. My secondary thought, which I didn't get to before, was they just brought on Molly Holly as a producer post WrestleMania. And I was like, oh, are they really interjecting the superhero character because Molly Holly's here and I know Hurricane is still around a lot too. I don't know if he is a producer or not.
He is.
But okay, so they have both of them there. But even then, like you said, they were such a caricature that it was about the performance of what the caricature was, not necessarily the message behind that. And I think Nikki is the message behind what the character is. And I would love to see where that goes. But again, when I had my own veil of where's Crazy Nikki, okay, I take that away and then I bought in. This helps me buy in a lot easier because I know where it's coming from now. I know the soul of the character is Nikki, and I'm cool with that. Absolutely. If she, kind of like we talked about Ricochet, right? If this is the direction she wants to go and she has that ability and it's now up to her to show she's worth all of that, by all means, let's do it. I'm a huge Nikki fan, regardless of what she does, as long as she's on TV doing it. And if this is going to help get her more time, by all means, I'm in. I am now less tentative to buy in because I know that it's hers.
Okay. It's fascinating. Do you know Mankind wasn't his idea? I'm going somewhere with this.
I mean, if that's fact that it wasn't his idea, I know he wanted to change up from Cactus Jack anyway, so I know it was an amalgamation, but the performance of who Mankind was, I know, was his interpretation on what the mask was.
Yes, it was his interpretation of someone else's idea.
Yeah.
You know, Undertaker wasn't his idea, right?
Correct.
Okay. You know, Stone Cold was his own idea.
It's actually his ex-wife's idea. Well, the name.
He had the idea of a hitman, of like,
Yeah.
he wanted to be kind of a Stone Cold killer, but he didn't know how to say Stone Cold. She was British and said Stone Cold because that's how Brits do.
Your T's gonna get stone cold.
Your T's gonna get stone cold. Here's where I'm coming from, because I've had this conversation before. Also, specifically to Void, podcast that's out there. I don't know if they're with us tonight or not, but good friends of the show. I'll be on one of their shows at some point in the next couple months or so as we dive into the legal status of some wrestling-based kayfabe storylines. So a lot of fun. But it was something we talked about before we started recording. To me, I don't see, or perhaps don't give too many shites, especially as a creator and an artist, where the idea comes from. If producer says, wouldn't it be cool if you drew this? Doesn't have a huge impact on how my drawing turns out or how my graphic turns out. Or, as I've been working with Pro Wrestling for Life with Sean X Puck Waltman, I've designed at this point, I believe, almost 9 different t-shirt designs, only one of which has come to fruition because, as I keep saying, what do you want versus what am I drawing are 2 different conversations. That doesn't mean we don't get to a point of saying, here's one we can use versus here's 9 I don't like. Because it's my idea or not doesn't make it a good product. Because it's your idea or not doesn't make it bad product. Here's what I'm getting at. I don't see the difference between T.L. Hopper, the Goon, or Dan the Dad, or Danhausen. I don't care where the idea comes from. It's how the execution comes off. If you're truly an artist, is your only work of art what you can do for your own thing? Maybe you can express yourself more or less based off where the idea comes from. Maybe you feel it more. But if your art is performance, and you can only perform the art as you see fit, maybe you're not as good a performance artist as you think. Because I don't see the difference. I don't care if Nikki came up with the idea or not from an external level. From a creative level, I love that it came from her. I think that's fantastic because then you know she's got ideas, you know that she's got room to grow, and you know she can really breathe in there. But from a creator standpoint, I don't give a shit if it was your idea or not. If you're Mick Foley level or Mark Calloway level, it doesn't fucking matter if it's your idea.
Right. Yeah, I think it, to your point, since you laid it out so beautifully, it's a matter of, again, people thinking that they're insiders. Because I said it to you just now. I mean, I want to see Nikki on my TV. And even what she was doing, even though me and you had a difference of opinion on Nikki's presentation in the matches with Rhea and Charlotte, that her on TV working to get a win and getting the wins was enough for me to buy in that we're getting some Nikki. And as long as Nikki is there, I trust Nikki's ability to entertain me. So I agree with you. And I think she is the one. You know what? Take the superhero gimmick away and give her Mankind. She'll be fucking great. Give her Undertaker. I think she'll be great because I hold her in that regard. It's the other wrestlers that I keep saying we, but I have the disconnect with where they don't do things like that. They don't resonate regardless of character. And it is a huge point. And yeah, it'd be great if other people could just be themselves turned up to 11 like Stone Cold was, or, take on a full character and I'm blanking on a particular one, but like do an Undertaker style thing where the guy was in kayfabe for 30 fucking years.
Yeah.
Alexa?
Even Mankind went back and forth with, and he played all his characters phenomenally, but once you resonated with Mick Foley, everything was an extension of Mick Foley. But Undertaker was in kayfabe for 30 years, and he did it phenomenally. Like, we can't get people to do characters for 2 years. And people are shitting on Mason T-Bar when they're still holding on to the character because it actually has name value. So give it a chance. And they're trying, I don't know.
People's inherent issue of it's somebody else's idea who has to, quote, make it work, so therefore it's a problem, are fucking not artists, man. If your only ability to create... So... I'm a big fan of JoJo, the pop star. I've mentioned it from time to time. One of my favorite things that I saw her say once was hobbyists create after inspiration. Professionals create every day regardless. If you are an artist, then you are just creating, whether you're inspired or not. You could feel absolutely disenfranchised by everything you're doing, and you're going to go in and create because it's just what you do. If you need inspiration, you are not an artist, you're a hobbyist. So if you can't find yourself within another character just because it wasn't designated by yourself, maybe you're not an artist like you think you are. You know what I mean? That's not to shit on some of these people. It's not. But it is to say that I do not understand the people who say the Goon was terrible and Duke the Dumpster Drosy was absolutely awful. And these occupational gimmicks were just the absolute shits and the highlight of what makes the WWE so goofy and hokey. However, I love Man Scout and Orange Cassidy. Those are all extensions of the same thing. Chris Statlander is an extension of the same thing. If you want me to buy into her as an alien, then you need to buy in as TL Hopper as a plumber. Because at the end of the day, the performers are tasked with the same thing, except TL Hopper was tasked with someone else's idea, and Statlander thought it would be great in her own accord to just be an alien. So you can't knock both. You can't have them both. I love that this is Nikki's idea. I don't have to know it's Nikki's idea to love it. If that's anything. Producer, you can say something?
Oh, Mika's in the chat watching us on YouTube saying, I enjoy not knowing spoilers as well. It makes everything more fun. Wrestling should be fun.
Hell yeah, that's Micah from Specifically Devoid. Specifically, right? Not sporadically. I said sporadically last time and I got yelled at. So Specifically Devoid. Yeah, absolutely, dude. And we talked about it before, 100%. And that's how I feel about this. Is I was in on it because she seemed heavily invested in it, and then other people backtracked and moonwalked when they're like, well, if it's her idea, then it's good. No. If you believe in these performers like you want to pretend you do, then you shouldn't give a shit whose idea it was coming forward necessarily.
Yes, it's shitting on WWE for the sake of shitting on WWE. I mean, you know, it'd be like you shitting on the
fucking years.
It'd be like you
Vince hasn't
shitting
had
on
a
the
good
Black
idea?
Swan, even though they're a good singer because you hate the Masked Singer, but then it's JoJo and you're like, oh my god, it's amazing. You know?
Yeah. Right. Oh, I guess it's all covers. 100%. Let's see real quick in the chat over here too. Jeremy was saying, ever since Nikki Cross stopped the crazy Nikki character, she gave me big Molly Holly vibes. So her becoming a superhero is pretty fitting. That's pretty fucking cool. And I hear you. Now that you say it, thinking backwards on it, you're right. And he goes, embracing her inner superhero, I should say. Yeah, 100%. Now that you mention it, ever since she dropped the crazy Nikki and she's been this overly giddy, happy, go lucky fighting for who knows what reason, you're absolutely right. This is super fitting and probably what we should have seen coming all along. So I'm sorry, I went on a whole thing here because it's been something that's been bothering me a lot. And I've had a few conversations with people who are all like, no, the difference is it comes from the artist, therefore it's good. And I'm like, no, artists can make bad art.
And that was one argument I was seeing, that someone said, I don't care if it's her idea, I don't like it.
Which is more fair to me than saying because it's her idea, therefore it's good.
Right.
I prefer someone to say I like it or not based off what it is, and not I like it or not based off who made it. Right? I've seen shitty art go for a lot of money, but I did not like it. I've seen incredible art go completely unnoticed and sit in warehouses forever because of who made it. And I'm more about the product than I am about the mind behind it, to be honest. So, that's not to, devalue what Nikki's doing here. Let's see. Jeremy does say, now we all need is a really bitchy heel Nikki Cross character, and it would literally be Molly Holly 2.0. I think we'll get there, dude. I honestly do. I think she'll crack. However, we did have a match here. Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss against Shayna and Nia Jax. There was some tomfoolery, some weirdness, some goofiness. I really liked the subtleties that Nikki was throwing in there. She was doing her poses. She was doing moves and fucking sticking her fist out in the air in a certain way. I felt like it was a different Nikki, and I loved every second of it. I thought the match was solid. I thought the weirdness with Alexa Bliss continuing on was good stuff. Is there anything else you want to say about this stuff, Bishop, as we move through?
Yeah, I mean, look, the match was definitely an extension. It was actually pretty cool how they're two completely opposite characters with a past who interacted well, and they didn't diminish each other, right? Like, Nikki was able to build up her character, display her character, should I say, and Alexa was able to build on her accumulation of powers. I mean, it honestly looked like she was about to possess all three of them at one time, and I think it's coming. And I don't fantasy book, so I don't want to get my hopes up on it, but that's what they're telling me, is that she has now visually infected Shayna, Nia, and Reginald at one point in time. And that is the beauty of what this character is. in the difference of what the Fiend was. So this is what Alexa's been building to, and Nikki has displayed herself as what this superhero is. And by the way, I kept finding myself distracted by Nikki's gear in a good way. I thought it was eye-catching without being overt. Like, I consider it to when Tony Storm switched from shorts to pants. The shorts were always like, wow, her butt's hanging out. And when she switched to pants, it's like, oh, you're wearing pants and look like a badass. You know, like you're saying with Ricochet now. Like, you know, so when I kept myself keeping drawn to Nikki going, oh, wow, she really moves awesome in this new gear. Those are my takeaways from the match. Of course, I give the women's wrestling a little bit of a leeway. I actually don't remember much else about the match besides the character work, which is, it's never a bad thing either. So I thought it was really well done.
That's actually a great thing. If all you remember is character work.
I like that you mentioned the gear, because I notice right away when anyone is fixing their gear. And I automatically always say, oh, that's not going to work. And for some reason, they continue with the gear. Maybe they just have a lot made at one time. I don't know. But Nikki was one that I always felt like her gear a lot of times didn't sit well. She's always fixing it. So I am glad that she got something that she's comfortable with and not fixing.
Yeah, it looked really good. Let's see. After that, we got a pretty, I don't know, you tell me what you thought of it. We had a Drew McIntyre promo where it starts off with him zoomed in on his back, where he is again leaning precariously against something as to be able to flex his back because his muscles are more important than anything in this world. Where he goes, you guys know me by now. This is what I do. I fight injured. You remember when I had the fake broken jaw that no one bite into?
Everyone has muscles there.
Yeah, but he tries to pretend his muscles are bigger than other muscles. This whole segment I just thought was garbage and throwaway. I don't know. Did you like anything out of it? Him and Adam Pearce.
That's
like, well, if
where
we're
I
gonna
came
go
up
through
with
hell,
that
keep
line
going.
that those bruises didn't come from the table, and that's all I cared about, is that the bruises didn't come from going through a table. I don't care how many candlesticks you get hit with; those bruises didn't come from the table. And you tried to fake a table spot. I'm out.
Yep, you're no Lana.
You are no Lana. Let's see. We had Drew McIntyre. Actually, it was just okay. So right before the match, we had the backstage segment with Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville with Jinder Mahal, Cedric Alexander, Jeff Hardy, and Sheamus. I liked this. It was a little rougher than I'd like. A lot of people stumbling over their words there, which I didn't love. Oh, you know what I just noticed too? When they filmed his back, there was a heavy contrast to make everything look really dark. By the time he got to the ring, there wasn't a contrast anymore because they used the same a regular camera, and a lot of those welts just disappeared completely. I'm looking at two pictures of him in the ring versus him backstage, and the contrast is so heavily different. He's almost like a peach brown color of his skin. Say what?
Keep getting me not to care. Keep getting me not to care.
Yeah, no, they put a heavy filter on it to make the red stand out and make the rest go away. But by the time you hit the ring, at least a third of, easily half of those welts are just gone. They blend into his back because they're not as bad. They're just a light color because the contrast isn't up by 1,000. It's like that's actually something they do in forensic photography to get pictures of bite wounds. They'll increase certain lighting and stuff to get those kind of under skin bruising to show. That's what they did for the promo, but not for the match. So
it's just so desperate.
It's desperate to get sympathy on a guy I don't care about. Anyways, we did have a promo. Jinder, Cedric, Jeff, Sheamus, Adam Pearce, and Sonya Deville. What'd you think about that? I wish that they didn't stumble over the words so much, but I liked it overall.
Yeah, same. Anytime Jinder says the name Drew McIntyre, it gets you thinking, especially since they had their runs separately and haven't crossed paths since. So, I got excited for that moment, and maybe that'll get us to, give a shit at some point about Drew McIntyre properly. So, other than that, I noticed, and maybe I missed it, I don't think Sheamus talked until he had to display his U.S. championship. And I found it odd that he was kind of plotting in the back. And then we could talk about it later, but that it doesn't lead to anywhere. So,
it went nowhere.
Yeah.
But I think it will go somewhere next week because they're like, oh, if someone's knocked out of the match, then let me know I'm a runner-up. And Cedric's like, oh, that's a great idea. And then Jeff Hardy's all like, yeah, maybe. So I think we do get to something down the line, which makes me wonder who's going to be the person who qualifies for the Money in the Bank match and then gets removed from it as well, which I think is going to be the interesting part. Who gets in and then gets kicked back out? I almost... And I apologize for the dick thing I'm about to say. I kind of want it to be Mustafa Ali.
Same.
Because he was injured and got removed from Elimination Chamber, then he almost won Money in the Bank when Brock came out and took it. For him to qualify for Money in the Bank and be removed, I think that could give another level of you keep fucking with me character that he could utilize, because I think he's that fantastic. He could use it to say, like, not only was I damaged and removed from Elimination Chamber, but I was screwed out of the Money in the Bank twice. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think he could utilize it. It's not to say I want to see bad for him. I think I actually could be turned into a positive. That's why I say that.
Well, he's stronger today because of it, and you can continue to build that strong character. And that's where, it seems every wrestling fan or pundit or journalist or podcast host, the one thing that we are, I can't fucking say. TWTixpodcast.com/TWTs for dope merch, promo code dive bar. But no, honestly, we tend to look at a lens. Oh, this was a terrible match. Well, was it about storytelling? Oh, this is a good match. Well, what about the character? Why do I care? You know what I mean? So there's all these things that are involved. And when you look at Ali's best work, as fantastic as a wrestler as he is, he has done things to get you to be interested in him.
Thanks.
Since Retribution started. Has everything hit? No. But every time he's on TV, are you interested? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So to build this
100%.
character a bit more, I'm cool with it.
Tell me what you thought about Matt Riddle and Drew McIntyre. Overall, I thought it was a really good match. I'm really glad Riddle won, but that's kind of all I had to say about it. What do you think?
I barely watched it.
Okay.
I'm not invested in Drew. He's on TV. I don't care.
Yeah, I fell asleep.
Yeah.
That's just how I felt. Like the missus go, oh, so is Randy Orton. Oh no, my buddy texted me. Sorry, she already went to bed. My buddy texted me. He goes, oh, so is Randy Orton going to come out and fuck with Matt Riddle's match? I said, no, he doesn't care about Riddle as much. So when Orton came out at the top of the ramp, I was like, okay, but I doubt he's coming down, and he didn't. But no, I barely watched it. I started fucking around on Twitter or playing a game or whatever the fuck I was doing. I don't care about Drew, whether he won or lost. It's just not going to bother me either way.
Yeah. Well, I was happy he lost. Although we do end up with a last chance match with him. It's got Drew, Randy, and AJ. Do you think Drew pulls out that win? I really hope it's AJ, to be honest.
I mean, I'm not.
I think being in front of fans, they might go Drew, to be honest.
I think they will.
I don't want to say I don't care, because I would honestly like to see Randy Orton in it again, but without Riddle in the match. So therefore, I'd rather see AJ Styles in the ladder match specifically with Ricochet and Morrison. And AJ's put on great ladder matches in WWE. I mean, one of my favorite ones of all time with him, Sami Zayn, and Jeff Hardy.
Yes.
I thought that, I mean, that's I think the best ladder match of all time. They just put on such a fucking storytelling match. But I don't care to watch Drew, so I don't know how much I'll care about this match. And that's just honestly how I feel. I'm not excited to watch him walk down the ramp or do anything. So whatever they do in the ring, I'm gonna be like, ugh. So I just don't know. If I could pick anyone, I would pick AJ.
I'm really wondering what the reaction is going to be with the live crowds and Drew if they, number one, just start booing him, or two, get up and get some popcorn.
Yeah.
Or go to the bathroom.
And so if they put him in the ladder match, then they can't go get popcorn because they have to watch the ladder match.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they might try to put Drew in the ladder match so you can have a crowd cheer for Drew if he wins Money in the Bank and it's his last chance to go for a title. Although I do think this, if you put it on Drew, you do have the story of he cannot cash in on Bobby Lashley. So then you have the story of Drew trying to get Bobby to drop the title throughout a whole entire year, which I think could be good if you had Bobby as a champion for almost a year while Drew tries to force him to drop it so he can finally have a shot at it because of the Money in the Bank and the Hell in a Cell stipulation. I do think there's an interesting story to be told there.
We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that. That's right. I don't know if we talked about that at the end of the Hell in a Cell or when we got off the air and we did that privately, but when you came up with that idea, it instantly came to my mind. If he goes the entire year and tries to or is not allowed to, and his challenge is not just overcoming and being in position to cash in, but also Bobby never losing so he can't cash in. That type of hook to storyline, I think, would be the way to get at least myself interested in what Drew McIntyre does. But also,
I could become sympathetic for a person who's not allowed to cash in on something they're supposed to be allowed to cash in on. I could absolutely see sympathy.
Or at least
building
start
there.
with entertainment. At least start with entertainment. You know, they give me a story to get behind, and yes, there's the struggle in there. But also, at this point, do I even want to see Bobby lose, or do I want Bobby to win that much more so Drew can't cash in?
Right.
You know, and then what kind of fuckery could Drew do to get Bobby to lose so he can win the title from Dolph Ziggler or whoever?
Right.
I think they can do a lot of good things with that.
What if Drew brings back Brock Lesnar to beat Bobby because he knows he can beat Brock anyways, and he's not allowed to face Bobby anymore? You know what I mean? What if he's like, I've got someone to challenge you. Boom, Brock Lesnar's now working with Drew. You know what I mean? Like, you could do all sorts of cool stuff with it. I don't know if they do or don't, like I said. Let's see. There's only like 2 things left in the night.
Meek in the chat is saying Randy for tension with Riddle, and so he can hit an RKO from the top ladder or something crazy.
Just getting Randy in a ladder match? I mean, maybe, but I don't know that Randy's feeling like jumping off a ladder. When you look at that guy's entire career, it's not been built off of jumping shit like a ladder. Just in time does say, all right, let's do this then. Okay, he says, I want it to be Randy Orton because AJ will probably defend his tag title at Money in the Bank, and hopefully Drew's losing streak will continue instead of giving him another opportunity to get a championship match. Dude, Randy Orton in a ladder match sounds cool. But somebody pull up Randy Orton matches and you tell me how many ladder matches that guy's been in. I think that guy does not want to get on a ladder. I really don't. He's had the one with John Cena. I don't know of any other. Really?
I feel like he's even said that in a promo.
He's not that type of wrestler. He did the one with Cena, and it was fantastic. But I don't know that he's got a lot of ladder matches in him. I'm going to be honest. Randy Orton's not that kind of a guy. So he might not be the indie darling you think he is. He might be WWE for life. That's just my thoughts. Look it up. Check it out. But I hear you, Justin. I hear you, and I'll buy you a drink. And don't ever leave me. Let's see. We do have the Kofi versus Bobby Lashley coming up at Money in the Bank. But before that, we have... Oh, wait. There was a little bit of a segment here. Jackson Riker and Mansoor talking some shit. Jackson Riker giving him advice, being weird and creepy with a strap, hitting himself in the back with it. Dude, that was the moment I went, fuck. I'm watching this and I was like, okay, this is weird, whatever. He's doing a thing. But then he's all like, I'm challenging Elias to a strap match. And he fucking starts whipping himself with the fucking strap. I was like, fuck, stop. Like, no, you're not supposed to want it. That's when I went, this motherfucker's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Orton won Money in the Bank before? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mike is right on that one. So what, that's 2 ladder matches we've gotten so far? I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying I don't think it's his thing. And he's older now than he was then. He's less crazy.
Yeah, but he might be the one holding the ladder as opposed to jumping off. They do need a base.
And I'm not against him in the match. I'm not against him in the match at all. I'm just not getting my hopes up for Randy in a ladder match strictly because I don't think he's the type to need a ladder match, and I think he knows that, and I think he's all like,
Yeah.
You mean I don't have to get bruised up? I can still make a payday? Let's see real quick. Justin Time does say he's been in like 2 other Money in the Bank matches. Maybe. And then Jeremy says, Marsh, you king shaming Jackson Riker. Let's think about that. Where's Clump? BadDragon.com for anybody interested. What? Sorry. I want to strap match Jackson Riker now. What? Sorry. Justin Time does say in the chat, WrestleMania 23's Money in the Bank he was in as well. Oh yeah, that was fantastic. All right, he was been in a couple ladder matches. Maybe he'll be there.
He was also like 18 at WrestleMania 23. So
that's what I'm saying, man. That was 30 years ago. I Steiner math everything. That was like 33 and 3 years ago.
Dude, we figured that one out easily.
Yeah, we hit it on the head. But I do think that this whole segment, Mansoor and Ali talking the way that they did, I actually really liked all of this.
Yeah, me too.
And I thought it was really funny on Twitter. Mansoor retweeted one of these clips, and he goes, "When did my life become a create a wrestler mode?" Yeah. And I was like, this is hysterical. Actually, that's the funniest fucking tweet I've seen in years. Because he 100% came off that way. He comes over, do you have any advice for me?
Yeah.
And it was like overly dramatic advice.
Yeah.
It was like,
click square, X, or circle.
Yeah, 100%. All that to say, though, I'm really excited about that, about the strap match. I think is really cool. I have not been all that invested in Jackson Riker in general, but this whole segment here really made me interested in see what happens next, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if WWE does what they want instead of listening to Twitter on Jackson Riker, they have the ability to use a really good athlete with a great physique to do something. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm not invested in him. Not even for his personal reasons. I just never saw a character on TV that I care about, and he's also like the shrunken version of Elias as far as physique goes. But also, they don't put him in many matches to make me care. So if this comes off as like one badass strap match and he comes out on top, I mean, I can be like, damn, let's see what's next. You know what I mean? So they did a decent job making me want to see what the strap match looks like. It's unfortunate that Elias has to be the whipping post for what this is, because all he's done is run away and look like a coward. So I don't think this is going to go well for Elias.
I don't think it's going to hurt him ultimately, and I think once he gets in front of crowds, he'll be all right. For Jeremy's sake, what I will say is I hope when Riker gets struck by the leather strap, we see a visible boner, and I can clap for him because I will never kink shame him, but I can appreciate his desire to be strapped and slapped and cracked. You know what I mean? I'm just saying I'm supportive. Producer is so fucking pissed right now, dude. She's about to fucking cut the whole show.
I mean, we said we'll make it a quick one, and it's been 3 hours, so it's up to you.
It's quick.
And I'm not even drinking, bro. I had a shot beforehand and 1 beer, so this one's on you.
No, we're good. We're good. We're on the main event anyways. Yo, Xavier Woods versus Bobby Lashley in a Hell in a Cell on a Monday Night Raw for the first time in a quarter of a decade. As Corey Graves wanted to make sure we knew.
Quarter of a century? Quarter of a decade's 2.5 years.
Dude, what kind of Steiner calculator do you have?
That was a real one.
All about centuries. Just this took a weird turn. I'm saying I'll clap for the guy, whether he has clap or not. But
Micah said, don't get mad at him. It's his first episode.
yeah, that's right. It's my
Nice.
first episode, guys. It's only episode 1. Everybody calm down. Everybody needs to relax.
It's just
Everybody needs to
feeling
put
out
the
the
strap
audience
on.
to see if they're feeling out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, just trying to get a
Feeling out what Riker's
gauge.
into.
Yeah. Trying to be supportive.
Maybe Jeremy's
But it
the
was-
one kink shaming.
Yeah, I think Jeremy is at fault here.
Now Justin's kink shaming? Come on.
Yeah, come on, man. He says, nothing will ever be as off the rails as that 4-hour episode 1. And I think Justin Time makes a really good point. But we did have Xavier Woods against Bobby Lashley. This match at first, I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling this. It feels like Bobby Lashley's just beating the shit out of Xavier Woods. And I get it. It makes him look bad and tough, and it makes Kofi upset, and I get it. And I was like, but I just don't know if I like it. I was like, Xavier Woods is just so damn good. And then it happened, dude. I was fucking worked. Woods started getting a comeback. He started hitting some crazy moves, and I was like, here we fucking go. And by the end of it, I'm like screaming for Woods to do it. I'm like, get him! Fuck him up! Bobby Lashley's looking like he's in danger, and I'm like, Woods is going to fucking do it and surprise everyone.
Danger.
And, ultimately, Bobby Lashley got the win. MVP gets inside of the cage, locks the cage back up because the referee Spider, I never remember his name, but it's what they call him, so gets locked out of the cage. Kofi can't get into the cage, and then Bobby Lashley just hurt locks the shit out of Woods in front of Kofi. And that's when I was all like, this is some heel fucking behavior. Boo Bobby Lashley. I want him to lose so fucking bad, and I felt it. I felt it in my soul. I was like, Kofi, you have to. You have to, Kofi. I thought this whole main event was fucking tremendous. And I think where we're going with Kofi and Bobby is outstanding. What'd you think about any of this? Am I missing something here?
Besides mentioning that table spot,
where you flew 600 feet?
It was, and he overshot. And then the announcers were even like, I think he overshot because he landed on his hips and not his ribs.
The way Corey Graves called that spot where he goes fucking elbow off the top, and he was all like, to be honest, he's all like, do you see the distance he went? And he goes, if I'm being honest, I think he overshot it. And as they replayed, he goes, yeah, look, he hits him with his hip and not even his elbow. He goes, it might have even done more damage when you think about it. I was like, oh my God, Corey Graves, sell me a ketchup popsicle. I am on board.
Yeah, dude. I've been on the Corey bandwagon since he started. But yeah, Woods too. I've been on his coattails too. It's, people say there's too many titles, yet there's not enough titles for all these incredible performers. What do you do with Woods? He doesn't let you down, and he gets put in a position to absolutely shit the bed. Main event Raw against the champion inside Hell in a Cell, the night after Hell in a Cell, and put on the most fluid Hell in a Cell since the Friday, as an all-encompassing match goes. Because again, with the hiccups with Bianca and Bayley, I thought was an issue, and all that shit with Drew was a fucking problem. But Ray and Roman and Bobby and Woods, god damn, we had two really fucking good Hell in a Cell matches, and they weren't on the pay-per-view. I loved it. I loved it. Woods has not let us down in any tag match, any solos chance he got. He is so fucking good. I thought it was great.
It was phenomenal. Like I said, I think Xavier Woods might honestly be the most underrated and underappreciated wrestler on the entire roster because he does not miss. His athleticism is through the roof. When you really watch a Woods one-on-one match against anyone, every time you watch it, you just end up over half the match just going, whoa, or wow. The dude is awe-inspiring when it comes to what he can do in the ring.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely, like, you just don't see it coming. When you look at him, you just think.
He's so creative. He found a way to not look like anyone else when he wrestles. Yet he doesn't have like a fully standout style. You just know that Xavier Woods put on an awesome fucking match, and he never looks like anyone else when he's in there. He's so good.
Dude, the honor roll, every time I see it, I go, God damn.
I think I put it in your chat on episode 1. I don't know. I think it was on. Yeah, definitely episode 1. You guys were talking about the New Day, and I jumped in, and I still stand by it. He is the perfect mix of Kofi and Big E. You put the two of them together, you have Xavier Woods. He doesn't do high fly as good as Kofi. He doesn't do strength as good as E. But when you put them together, he does both better than the two of them do it. He's so fucking good.
Yeah. He's absolutely phenomenal. I met him backstage at an event once, and I remember thinking specifically that he had the biggest arms of anybody I'd ever seen in my life. He's so unassuming when you look at him. But then when you get a really good look at him, you go, this might be the strongest man in the world. Like, he's completely unassuming. You don't think it until, like, he's in a tight shirt or something. And then you're like, wait a second, that shirt's about to rip off. Producer, something she wants to say?
It's also pretty awesome when you think that, what was it, like a year ago, he was out and didn't know if he was going to come back from his injury. And there were some other people in similar situations that didn't come back in great shape, you know, and it shows in the ring. And with him, it's like he didn't miss a beat. You would not have guessed.
Yeah, 100%. What did Micah say?
Micah is saying, imagine if Kofi beat Bobby and his first defense is against Brock, the man who beat him for the same title in 10 seconds.
Yeah, I don't fantasy book, but that's a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
I had thought that yesterday. I thought I could, because I think I mentioned it to you while we were watching, because Kofi, I feel like Kofi and Woods have really been just so great at their promos, just offhand talking to AJ, and I thought, oh man, Kofi going back and forth, if he could go back and forth and say, yeah, you beat me, but you know, yada yada, it'd be so good.
Now, what if Kofi loses in less time than the match before? How crazy would that be?
No,
That
it's the
wouldn't happen.
kick out. It's the same start and then the kick out. And then once he kicks out, the roof blows off the building. He gets up, another F5, and then loses. And then all the boos come down. Yeah. They know what they're doing.
The roof blows off the building. Then he loses.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yes. Just in Time does say in the chat, Woods has always been incredible, even during his Consequences Creed run in TNA. Yeah, that was some good stuff. I actually came across some Consequences Creed gear that I thought about getting. Gear? His ring gear? Consequences? But I think that when I get in-ring used stuff, it's got to be somebody who meant a lot during the run of the gear that I'm looking at. I think it's got to be like a connection. I was like, I just didn't watch it at the time. I've only watched it in replay, and it's not the same. So I opted against it. But if you want some, I'll send you the link. But yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think Woods is one of the most underrated performers out there. I think he's phenomenal. Him having a match with Bobby Lashley is absolutely fucking incredible. The emotion at the end of this match with Bobby and Woods and Kofi was fucking outstanding, and I can't wait for any of it. I don't know if there's anything else to say other than one of the, maybe the best Hell in a Cell matches of the entire week has been on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I said
I
that
don't think
already.
it's an accident. Yeah. And I don't think it's an accident. One of the best Hell in a Cell matches of all time was New Day versus Usos.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was an accident. I think Xavier Woods, like you said, is so fucking creative. And I think Kofi is so open to listening to creativity. I think that's why those kinds of teams works the way that they do. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This was a much better Raw.
This Raw was so good. I saw people shitting on it, being like, here we go again. And I'm like, what part was it that you didn't like? Like, I'm looking through this list of stuff, and I was like, there was one promo we skipped over, and the rest of it was, like, hard not to mention. And we didn't even want to mention it all, but it was hard not to just break down everything as it went. I mean, I guess we didn't talk about Asuka and Naomi against... No.
Sorry.
Well, Eva Marie and Dewdrop, because
Marie
it
and
wasn't
Piper.
about
Yeah.
It wasn't about the match. It was about the character.
It wasn't about...
Well, I said I was
Correct.
excited to see Naomi again.
That's all correct. But we forgot to mention that Naomi and Asuka even won it, and that's how important the character work was of Eva and Dewdrop. However, Super excited. Much the same as you said, how amazing is it we have Morrison and Ricochet in a ladder match coming up? We have Asuka and Naomi in a ladder match coming up.
Oh, yes, we do.
How fucking great.
And Naomi looks like she's just having so much fun with Asuka.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, and how awesome was it as we wrap up this show and get ready for last call to have several commercials for NXT all about how Samoa Joe is in NXT now. I fucking loved that they're all like, oh, Samoa Joe's over here now. If you remember Samoa Joe, because there's no way you don't, you're going to want to check out NXT because he's a fucking force.
Justin
says he teamed with Jay
missed the
Lethal
joke.
during... Yeah, there was a joke about thing.
Yeah, I was wondering
what'd
if
you think about the
Consequences
commercials?
Creed tagged with Truth Apollo, and he didn't give me that. He gave me a real answer.
Yeah, he did a real thing. What do you think about the Samoa Joe commercials?
No, it's fantastic. I mean, I tweeted you guys after episode 1 last Thursday. Like, you guys talk so much NXT. I felt like I could have been invited in for that conversation. Because Joe is epically important. It's no secret how good he fucking is, and his presence. I said it on my NXT recap episode. I hated absolutely mute button all the way on people who were talking shit about, oh, we knew Joe was coming up or Joe's here, all that. I was so pissed that Joe was a secret that got out, because I would have gone nuts. Because my first NXT I watched on the network was the Sami Zayn KO main event where Joe arrived for the first time. So I would have caught this cool little full circle moment for myself. Joe, in 3 words, had the arm hair raising on my arm. Like, he's that fucking good. So when they decide to show Joe is that important to the rest of the world, by all means, come watch NXT on Tuesday nights. Of course, that's where I would have been tonight. I thought I would have had a chance to watch some of it. No chance.
No chance.
But I love coming to hang out and have a drink with you. I had a drink with you and stayed for 3.5 hours, but that's what we do.
It's what we do, man.
It's what we do.
It's how we get it done. Unfortunately, there was a good pay-per-view followed up by the first time in a long time fantastic Raw, and we couldn't neglect all of SmackDown, so it just was what it was. We even cut out all of the news, and there still was plenty to talk about because of how much good is happening in the wrestling world right now. And if you are thinking a lot of this stuff is bad, then maybe you just aren't a fan of wrestling and should probably maybe take a break. I was thinking about this the other day, Bishop. I know you took a break for a while as well. I stopped watching for a good fucking decade before I came back to it. I think some of these people who never stopped watching for a blip are a little jaded, and they're a little self-important, and
Entitled.
Entitled even. I think that it might do a few of these wrestling fans some good to take a couple years off and come back and see what they think later on.
It reminds me of some bands that I've just followed forever. But there comes a point where if there's an album I'm really not into, I'm just saying, I'm not buying it. Nope. Pass. Yeah. Hard pass, and I'll come back to if you get back to what I'm into.
Yeah. Take a couple years off. If you are this aggravated and you, quote, think your job relies on it, if you're a fucking wrestling journalist who watches Raw with hatefulness in their heart every week, find a new fucking job, man. You're not good at it. You don't love it. It's not your thing. And you're not actually a journalist. Just fucking relax. If you're watching Raw and reviewing it, you're not a journalist. You're a fan. Like the rest of us. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. You can't write an article about a tweet or write an article about a segment you saw on Raw and blindly guess what's going to happen next and call yourself a journalist. You're a fan who's speculating like the rest of us. And to be honest, it's a really fun place to be if you enjoy being here, to be truthful.
Yeah, I'm having a fantastic time. Look, I stepped away for the same reason people don't watch now. I'm like, oh, it's fully this. They want you to see that. The people look like this and all that shit and blah, blah, blah. And until I heard what people think they talk about now, because like I've heard Steve Austin say all the terms people say now, like booking and storylines and psychology and all that shit. But when it comes from that person and you apply it to what you see, it means more than you thinking you know what psychology or booking is. And that's why I watch it with appreciation now. And then that's also why I have a podcast, because these people who you just talked about, who are fans on an elevated level with check marks and shit, when they talk about it as if they're Steve Austin, I'm like, nah, dude, you're not Steve Austin. And also, you're not going to tell me what I just saw, because what I saw came from an emotion of how I feel. And that's why I'm glad I have my show. Terrible Wrestling Takes podcast. You can find me on all audio platforms, TWTakesPodcast.com. To find those platforms, I have video as well. So subscribe and like to all that shit. TWTakesPodcast.com/TWTs. Promo code DIVEBAR for all our friends over here at Wrestling on the Rocks. Marsh, I love hanging out with you, my friend. We have a blast every time.
It's always good to have a drink along, to have a breakdown, and to have a cup of coffee. That's right. Check out New Wave, NOOWAVE.co, and apply promo code CHEERS to any purchase on there, including subscriptions, to get an additional 10% off. You will get an additional 10% off your first bag on that subscription. And we appreciate New Wave Coffee for sponsoring the show and being a part of the family, as it were. Bishop, as always, it's great to have a drink with you. What's going on? Yeah, Micah wants episode 2 to be shorter. Hey, when we figure it out, we'll move on to episode 2. It'll probably be shorter. It'll probably be succinct. It'll probably be better sponsored. Not that there's a bad sponsor here now. But we'll get to episode 2 somewhere down the line. But until then, this is at WOTR, the show. We are Wrestling on the Rocks, where every show is our first show. And I am at Ref Marsh. And we will be back on Thursday for a brand new episode 1 as we try this all over again. Guys, that's the last call.
Cheers.
Hey, producer lady here. Thanks for tuning in. Continue to support us or buy us a drink by following and putting the I in subscribe on Twitch. Or subscribe and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. Cheers!
I would never have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.